Attention humans, this is a thunk tank. Please insert this podcast directly into your nearest orifice for viewing pleasure.
Okay, you ready? Oh shit.
Welcome to the thunk tank. Welcome to the thunk tank. Oh yeah.
Yeah, there you go.
Come into our thunk tank.
Luke, don't switch to the other peanuts.
Welcome to the thunk tank. Come in the tank. We're thinking, and we're drinking,
And we're thunked.
and we're thunked.
Oh my god, I'm probably more beer than man if we go far enough back at this point.
2, 3, 1.
Two.
We're going.
And we're here.
And that's Thunk Tank Morning Edition for you, ladies
All
and
right,
gentlemen.
guys. This is Thunk Tank, episode 7. Welcome.
Lucky 7, that's
Thanks
right.
for tuning in. This is our 2017 year in review episode.
Yeah, we're wrapping it up.
We're about 3 days away from New Year's Eve.
It's coming, yeah. It's a couple days.
Who knows what 2018 is going to be like? But we just felt like we needed to recap 2017,
We got to sum everything up.
right?
In
So
one
it's
session.
morning here. By morning, I mean 12:45 in the
That's
afternoon.
right. We didn't actually make it.
I'm never on time for anything.
Yeah.
Thunk Rise is like 10:47 though, so
Oh yeah, you forgot
That's a
to.
good-
So this
yeah.
is-
forgot to
this is
factor in
still
Thunk Rise.
This is
Sunrise
still
different
morning
than
for us.
sunrise.
Yeah.
oh, totally different, yeah.
Usually we record at night, so this is we got coffee going.
Yeah,
We're
this
about
is
to crack
really
our
early
beers.
for us. Yeah.
I kind of like the energy though. The lighting is better.
There is a lot of natural
There's a
light.
sense of hope in the air.
We actually don't have artificial lights on, which is it's
Exactly.
nice.
I kind of like the lighting.
It's
My
refreshing,
skin
yeah.
doesn't like it.
It's cold as
It burns on my
fuck
skin.
in the Northeast right now.
We're in the deep chill, which I mean.
I kind of like it though.
But
Like,
if you needed anything more to show you that global warming,
when I got
come
home
on.
last night, somebody was in my kitchen. This Asian girl was in my kitchen. I was like, "Hello," and she's in town recording something for with a band from California.
and she just stopped
Southern
by.
California. She was something my roommate was having her stay over or something,
That makes more sense.
and she was freaking out about the cold. She just didn't get it, you
oh
know.
yeah, California is a different.
And I was
vibe.
kind of I just adjusted to winter.
Yeah, they're on fire over there.
All right, that's a big news story too.
That was part of 2017.
So,
sure.
what we're going to do for
Hurricanes?
this episode
That
is
too?
just kind of go through the funny, the ridiculous. Just we all kind of researched what happened in 2017.
Oh, I didn't.
I was there
Even
for
better.
it. I don't think I have to.
Yeah, I was in person.
By research, I mean I was kind of just
I liked it.
interwebbing and
I
just,
did actually interweb because I wanted to find a good fact or fiction.
and I just thought about it
Yeah.
while driving, kind of thing.
That's self-assessment. That counts. I think certainly.
It's something. It's better than most
I was
people who aren't thinking while driving.
It's definitely better. Well, you should absolutely be thinking while driving first and foremost. But
Well, no, I mean, anyways,
yeah,
maybe you shouldn't be spacing out about a podcast while driving.
that might be the other end.
So
of it,
we're going to
for sure.
get to that in a second. We always start with saying what beer we're drinking. Don't judge us. It's 12:47, which
Yeah.
means it's 5 o'clock in Hawaii,
Is it
at least. Is it?
in the morning? They're behind.
Do we have a fact checker yet? Did we hire one?
It's on the docket of things to.
We could have
build
pretended it
support
was
for.
that time in the morning, but you went out of your way to mention our time, so now we
Yeah,
have
we
to
could just
make sure.
lie about all of this. You
Yeah,
realize that, right?
they don't need
All
to
right,
know what time
So,
it
Johnny,
is.
what beer do you have today?
I'm drinking a Belgian wheat saison that I made.
Ooh.
It's 4%, so I figured it's more appropriate for noon.
Wait,
Um,
this is something that you made? You brewed
Yeah,
this?
it's that nice light wheaty nice light wheat flavor you get in
Nice.
Belgian wheat beers. Shut up, it's delicious. What are you drinking?
I'll
I
take
would
your
I
beer
would
for
be
it.
handing Joe the same beer I'm about to open, but he put a fair amount of booze into his coffee.
It seemed like the right thing to do at the time.
For anybody out there that's into coffee, by the way, we're all pretty into coffee. We have a coffee episode in the works.
Do
We're
we have a
going to
coffee
have,
sponsor yet? Is it official?
2 coffee roasters join us
Yeah.
and just talk about coffee, talk about brewing, just all things coffee, basically.
Yeah,
So
all
I was
things coffee
downstairs
sitter.
brewing a V60 of some coffee, and apparently Joe was prepping his cup with whiskey, or what did you add?
I wound up adding Frangelico. It's a local.
There you go.
Ooh.
Yeah.
So
it's actually quite nice.
What Joe will be drinking after he finishes his first Irish coffee here is Burial Hawk Bill IPA.
I think it's a Neapolitan coffee if you use Frangelico.
It is Italian, yeah.
Yeah, I think it's. But sorry, go ahead.
See.
I just want to avoid a Thunkrection next week.
We got Mosaic, El Dorado, and Galaxy hops in this beer, so it should be a pretty good beer for, before 1 o'clock in the afternoon.
I'm down with that.
So,
you can crack me one. I'll just mix and match.
All right,
That's not the right phrase, is it? Oh,
there
thank
you.
you.
Go, Joe. One of these times I'm going to spill beer right on the computer.
It hasn't happened yet. We should probably start putting it. No, we're in a studio with more.
He meant
computers.
soundboard, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, the soundboard will be destroyed. That would be a problem.
So there's our beer.
Put a towel down next time.
Hit us up on social media and let us know what beer you have. We're trying to get a lot of craft beer drinkers. That's
our Twitter is at thunktankers.
At thunktankers.
That's a real thing.
We're at 197 followers as of right now.
And the 200th follower gets
the 200th follower
an air high five.
Will get
on the
email
air
from us.
I'm not willing to do that, but yeah, go for it.
I'll give an air high five.
We'll
Luke will record a song of your choice that he will cover.
Luke will write a personal 300-word poem for you.
That's a lot of words for a poem.
In German.
I don't know. In German. In High German from the late 16th century.
Yeah, none of that bullshit modern German. Yeah, he's going to go old school.
He's going to get the good stuff for you. Yeah.
Mahler style. It's going to be good.
And then the other thing we do at the top of the show is if we made any mistakes in the previous episode,
we make thunk corrections.
We'll do a correction, a thunk correction. So we're keeping an eye out on email. We've gotten one for last episode, but nothing to correct this time as far as I know.
I don't think it's existed long enough.
That's up to you guys to hit us up because we don't always know we made a mistake.
We know. Deep down we know.
And then also check us out in the show links on Patreon. You can help us out. Give us $1 per episode.
Or $2, or $7, or $40.
If you don't like the sound of Joe and I's voice, it can help us get a new microphone so we sound the same as Johnny.
Or they might just hate us in that case.
Well, I mean, the thing is, anybody that's listening doesn't hate us because they made it 6 minutes into a podcast already.
Thank God.
Unless they're tied up and somebody's torturing them,
That's the other end of that spectrum,
we'll take
right?
those listeners, too.
We don't encourage or support or condone that behavior, but we'll take it. Yeah,
well, technically, the guy tying him up and torturing him is getting us 2 listeners because he's also listening, theoretically,
and he must be a fan.
So that's really our core fan base.
Core audience.
Right? It turns out that's our core
if they're the ones bringing new
perpetrators.
listeners to the podcast, they're the ones you want to focus on, right?
Hey, that's modern day social networking, apparently.
All right, so to the topic, which is 2017 year in review.
Yeah.
I don't think there's ever been a year as weird and wild and reality challenging as 2017. Would you guys agree?
I think the year 20
in our lifetime.
I was gonna say year 20 was pretty weird.
Yeah.
This guy Jesus was running around.
But that's how things were.
The Romans
then.
were fucking
those were the days.
Up.
Yeah. Those were
forcing aqueducts and wine on people.
So I want to think of this as sort of this year has been so crazy being in the United States and dealing with Trump and just wondering about what is the presidency? What is this system we have that organizes 300 plus million people to all more or less work together and be
and by extension,
society?
And by extension, the rest of the world.
And the rest of the world because of how powerful the U.S.
is.
Well,
that's the scarier question. Is it's really making us go, oh, what's America again? What's the point of it?
It's a bunch
of
bloated,
is it here for us? Is it here for itself? Is it here for the world? What is it? What is it?
Right.
It's a really scary question.
To this election of 2016 that Trump won. Also, I just thought so much happens all the time that you just get adjusted to the tempo of the news. You get adjusted to the craziness of Trump. That it's good to sort of recalibrate reality and say okay, here's what's not okay. Here's what's crazy. And
the bar has shifted.
The bar shifts
immensely,
and it's human nature. We adjust ourselves to what we're getting. If we're getting a certain thing on repetition over and over, you adjust to it, and it's not as novel, and it doesn't strike you as crazy.
Well, I think first of all, a couple more days left, and we can say we made it. That's a positive.
I mean, a lot of people, I would say,
we should explain what that is.
Overreacted to their predictions of what would or could happen. If anything, I'd say the stress test on the American democracy has held up so far.
Well,
right?
I think you see that a lot in a lot of the courts. where
all the travel ban things.
Yeah,
right?
and it comes up where it's like,
Obamacare
oh, courts actually like
didn't happen.
Don't think so.
Building the wall didn't happen.
Yeah.
So
you guys are talking about hypernormalization, which is a real thing. We should define for listeners.
All right, define it.
And there's great examples of it in the past year. It's where something so ridiculous you just keep it up until it just becomes hyper normal because you get used to it.
Which is a Trump method.
A world leader saying that his own media is just totally fake, and media outlets arguing that was crazy when he first said it. I can't believe he just called CNN fake news, and now it's just a conversation topic that. And some people really think it, but it's something everyone knows about, that he says it.
But
it's just that's normal now. It's been normalized.
More fake news was spread in the 2016 election than real news around social media.
One word for you. Soviet Russia.
In Soviet Russia, the news writes you.
The news fakes you.
So, before we dive into the Trump thing, and we're going to try to cap that. We're not going to just do Trump the whole time.
He just ties into so much,
There's plenty of other things that are cool about a year of human progress, right?
Yeah, there was a lot of cool science stuff, too.
So can I start with a quote to sort of say, how I want to view this or frame the whole Trump thing? Mm-hmm. It's a Neil deGrasse Tyson tweet. One of the main things that happened this year that I grabbed onto that was not political at all was the solar eclipse.
That was great. That was really cool times.
And so he tweeted on the day of the solar eclipse. This was back in August. He said, quote, "The divided United States of America will unite today, sharing a cosmic event predicted by the methods and tools of science." So it's it doesn't matter what political party or what anything you are, the solar eclipse happened. And we knew it was happening, and it happened precisely when the scientists said it would. Science and the tools of science predicted this, and nobody can deny that, right?
I mean, there's got to be somebody who denies
it, but there's an undeniability to it that's stronger than any political argument you'll hear.
Yeah, Johnny, do you have any opinions on solar eclipses?
Human beings.
Well, people can misinterpret it, but that's probably a small fringe nut group.
Well, I didn't mean people can't do whatever they want in their own minds, but would you agree there's something more uniting about
because the experience was shared in a way that, if a politician says something you like, it's a different experience than if somebody else doesn't like what he said. Whereas everyone saw it happen the same way. It was, it's just weird to see the lights go out for a second.
And that's true for human achievement too. I think in thinking about the cosmos, and it's kind of disappointing that
even the birds were freaking out.
That's true.
The crickets came out. It was nuts.
That, though,
I'm pretty close to totality. We were at 95%.
We weren't quite there, but Joe and I were at the beach, and we had some eclipse glasses, and I was thinking if somebody in a Trump hat came up and said, "Hey, can I borrow those so I can look at the solar eclipse?"
You'd be like, "Yeah, sure."
I'd be like, "Yeah, definitely." Maybe
we actually did that. We offered the glasses to other people because we were like, totally. "Oh yeah, check that out."
They were
That's really cool.
Holding their hands up to the sun. I'm like, that's not how that works.
The sunscreen on your eyes isn't gonna take.
One of the hilarious Trump moments this year was him just staring up at the eclipse without glasses.
Did that really?
There's a picture at the White House of him.
He takes his glasses off. He had them on. He takes them off to check out what it really looks like. He's like, okay, and then looks away and then looks back at it for a second. You're like, come on, dude.
Are you sure that wasn't fake news? A fake news image?
A fake news video? Yeah. That's possible too.
It's really hard to tell. So
my neighbor gave us a colander. Next time you're in a total eclipse, if you're near totality, bring a colander or something.
Oh, I heard about that.
A slotted spoon, because the way the light passes through the holes, it's very weirdly indirect, and it makes these shadows. It's I don't know. It has soft edges. Yeah. They're not defined. It's like a backlit shadow. It's hard to explain, but play with colanders next eclipse, guys.
Yeah, I mean, there's lots of ways to do it, and I guess one of the funny Google trends, I brought some of those with me. Google puts out a list of different categories and what trended in searches was how to make eclipse glasses, and I'm thinking to myself, I don't want to try to make any eclipse glasses. If I don't know what I'm doing, I don't want to be blind. It's not worth that.
You can make a viewer.
You can make a viewer with a cereal box. I know that, but Joe and I having used eclipse glasses, there was something magical about it.
That was pretty cool.
Our friend
did you hear about the few 100,000 fake ones that got sold?
I know, yeah. I mean,
those people are just fucked.
The right there's a thing on the side.
It's like
of the glasses,
certification or something. Yeah. But like the international.
I know our friend Gat
Don't
was
melt your eyes
in,
society.
I believe, Wisconsin, and he said it was insane. Like,
oh really?
He was in Totality.
Yeah.
And he was with a group of people.
Wait,
you know what I'll do? I'll post in the show links my favorite video on YouTube that someone put out about the eclipse. I believe the Smarter Everyday video was really cool because I'll post this link in the show notes. He was able to film in Totality. He got amazing footage, but before Totality, the space station made a transit across part of the sun that was still lit up.
Oh, that's pretty dope.
And so he caught that also. Yeah. And it happens like instantly. Yeah. But at 3,000 frames per second, they were able to slow it down and see it.
Nice.
Pretty amazing. And all that is just a calculation as well of like knowing the orbit of the space station, and it's so cool.
Yeah. So they make an app for that now.
Science is real, and we were all united as one people, as one human race watching this eclipse. So that's kind of the theme I want to bring at this whole political thing. I've met a lot of fucking awful, like racist, seemingly racist type Trump voters, but I've also met people who just like maybe they didn't think it through all the way, whatever their reasons were, but they weren't like awful people. And those are the kind of people I'd rather have a conversation with than just like dehumanize them or make them so foreign to me that I can't even talk to them.
Yeah. But
that's the general vibe. I know a lot of people might even disagree with that, even though that's a pretty reasonable thing to say.
Well, that's the problem going forward, because there's theoretically 3 more years of this divisiveness, and it's either going to get worse or better. Yeah. I doubt it'll stay the same. So, that's definitely an issue going forward. But if we're doing 2017 in review, I think we should just mention the effects of, like, because a lot of stuff has changed. Like, Europe is not like that into America protecting it anymore. Germany is pushing to start like an EU standing army. Like, we can't rely on you anymore.
Europe's not even into itself anymore.
Well, from their perspective, like if you're a European
like that's
country,
a big change from the 20th century.
You can't have security if you're relying on something that is so insecure as like a Trump presidency running a country.
Well, I think that's a pretty unanimous concern among these other countries.
Imagine you're a 20-year-old and you notice like, your parents are just like doing some crazy shit, and like you realize like, whoa, I can't depend on them. I have to like make my own side
I gotta establish my
own
shit. Yeah, get my stuff together.
So,
I mean, it's a reaction to what the situation is. I mean, if you look at it, I always try to step back from this stuff objectively, and I'm just like,
yeah, Joe, give us your distilled version of like Trump and what you expected, what happened.
I think actually looking back, being now a year into all of this, it very much feels like kind of how I honestly expected it to go, where he was going to keep on doing his own thing. There was going to be a lot of pushback, and I think that's probably the best part of it, is that you see now, and this is a sentiment that I think's been echoed throughout the entire year, that people are more into like politics and just the political process, and
more people are aware.
Yeah, than probably they've ever been. At least in my lifetime.
I certainly check political news more than I did when Obama was president.
Right, because when Obama was president, it was like...
I was like, oh, there's this guy in charge who's like, speaks really well and seems like to know, he's way smarter than I am, so like, I'm happy.
And that's something else that was also confirmed, that Trump doesn't know what the fuck he's doing, which I always kind of
and then
pretty
you have
much
like,
knew.
I'm not convinced by this argument at all, but people like Scott Adams, he's the creator of Dilbert, he thinks Trump is a genius who's like a master manipulator, and there's a reason to his madness, so to speak.
Well, I think that there are aspects of that argument that you could look at and say, well, yes, he is very good at certain things.
Like instinctually, he has a sense of how to read a crowd really well.
Yeah, and that's a skill. That's a very valuable skill, apparently.
He does it consciously. It's like instinctual. He can just like...
Well, I think he's been doing it so long.
Yeah.
It's
he's
something
also
that he learned very young.
He's also very good at intimidating people.
Yeah.
Turns out it works better in like the business world than in the workings of government, where people sort of more strongly hold to like, no, this is the FBI. You can't just like fuck with that.
Can't shut her down.
Right?
You're dealing with institutions, which is different than people, different motivations, different incentives.
And it's it's nice.
You can't just fire them all the time, which is a big leverage move for intimidation.
Exactly, you can't.
It's like, fuck you, I'm a judge.
Yeah, or judges too. Yeah, you can't just say like, get rid of all these fake judges. That's not
one
how it
good
works.
thing from all this is that I personally have more understanding of the system is existing outside of time. Like people always call back to the founding fathers, like. Sure, they got a lot of things right, got a lot of things wrong. That's why they put in the Constitution that we can edit it, right?
Yeah, it was also hundreds of years ago.
But when I hear people talk, like former CIA people or just people that have worked in government that have more of an understanding of how the thing works, they all speak from a very politically neutral place that say, there's a game that goes back and forth between right and left.
Yeah,
Democrats,
but that's what's scary because a
Republicans.
lot of those people, they call out Trump. They're like, this is not normal behavior.
And a lot of them are Republicans, right? So a lot of people
Some of them,
like ex-military, ex-CIA, ex-intelligence, whatever. A lot of these people I've heard in interviews, they are Republicans. And they're saying, like, we've never seen anything like this. This is not just like Bush, right? This is not like Reagan. This is not even like Nixon. Like,
well, I think that's reflected in the fact that, and this is just another one of those general sentiments I've noticed. But I think it's, in some ways, it can sound like an overreaction, but I think there's a lot really to it where people say, oh my God, going through this entire year, I would take Mitt Romney in a heartbeat.
Just
go back 4 years ago, which is different.
I would take Al Gore at this point. His boring, dull ass,
When Mitt Romney was running, we made a whole thing about the binders full of women thing. Trump said,
look at that now, yeah. Right.
When you're famous, you can do whatever you want. You can grab them by the pussy. And he got elected president,
And the other guy who didn't say anything got fired.
Which, if it's nuts, because if he had made it till now, he would be taking Matt Lauer's job, because that guy got ran out of town with the whole sexual harassment thing.
Oh, that was a big part of this.
Apparently,
too,
even though he was there, and I want to get into that whole wave that happened in 2017.
Yeah, because that's big.
I think the grab him by the pussy gate is what is the main thing that triggered a lot of victims to come out and speak up and stuff. But
I think that's part of it.
But Billy Bush, as far as I know, he doesn't have any allegations out right now. Maybe someone could let us know if there are. But anyone that's had any in the last 30 years, they're getting called out now. So it's ironic that he was just there when someone else did it. But the guy who was raping people until they passed out in his office or whatever it was, Matt Lauer allegedly did. He would have that job.
Keep the word allegedly in all of this stuff.
Because it's all just coming out. They have to go through the process.
You are innocent until proven guilty or decided guilty by a jury of your peers, right? I think the whole sexual harassment things that have been coming out and the whole Me Too thing, I'm totally for that. I think that's a net good thing.
I mean, it's about time to a great extent.
And especially when you find out these things go back years and years and nobody was saying anything.
Yeah.
I think it's good to encourage a culture of coming out and saying things. I've heard things in
some of these stories too that you read. I'm like, Jesus Christ.
Because the goal is if you come out about all the pastimes, it makes it like a cultural thing that it's not okay, and then people feel more empowered to call it out when it happens. So the idea is going forward.
And that's ideal,
if a guy tries to be creepy or he grabs your ass once or twice, you get him fired.
Yeah.
Or you get it gets stopped, or he knows he's going to get fired immediately. It's not something you can get away from for years if you think you're in a powerful position. Oh no, if I do that, even creepy guys that want to do it are going to learn. Hey, if I'm too creepy, I'm going to lose everything. They're going to run railroad me out of town.
Yeah, there's a line there that's definitely been crossed.
And let's be
perfectly
clear, men have the potential to be creepy motherfuckers,
and also overpowering.
And all of the biological differences that make it intimidating, that all exists. It's just also important to keep in balance, an accusation is not the same as being true.
That's true, but then there is a situation, though, when you get 20, 30 people accusing you.
Right. As in the case of...
That's different than one person.
Joe, who is the one person that's been accused more than anybody who's, been in the news and gotten fired, gotten this or that? and nothing's happened so far.
Donald Trump,
the fucking president of the United States.
Yeah, that pass that he gets, and the fact that happened before all of this in 2016, and it's come up again now with all of this other stuff that comes out.
Yeah,
that has come out.
Isn't it a thing he can't get like sued civilly or something while he's president? Isn't that how he's just putting it off?
Are they allowed to pardon themselves?
He's arguing. He's actually, I think he's had one of his lawyers like said something. He's like, "Oh yeah, the pardon power is unlimited." When asked about it, he's like, "What are you basing that on?" And there is an argument.
It would be hilarious to be Donald Trump's lawyer.
There is the argument that
that's the right word.
It's not been tested. He could try to do
dark,
it. You know, you could definitely pardon yourself.
I don't
know if it'll hold up.
If we could get somebody to
confirm or deny that.
Yeah, give us some clarity on that. Our many loyal listeners.
So that whole thing was a big part of 2017.
Yeah, I think so too.
And then the other thing on the Trump thing, we kind of hinted at it before, but the fake news thing. It is true that more fake news was spread in 2016 leading up to the election than real news. And we didn't know it at the time. This is like a post-analysis of that, right?
Well, I don't know how do you define fake news exactly?
I don't know exactly how this statistic, but something.
So you're making up statistics?
Fake
news, Luke.
No, Facebook pages that turn out to be bots that are just churning out fake memes with fake statistics and stuff.
Right?
Yeah, like Hillary Clinton runs a pedophilia ring out of a pizza place.
Right. Everything from that to like just bringing up the Benghazi thing over and over, right?
I still don't know what Benghazi is, to be honest.
I don't know the details because
guys?
Leading up to this election,
no, I don't.
I never really cared enough. I always saw the political sphere as just like an arena I don't want to go in. Like, I don't want to get stuck on those details because there's better things to do.
Well, I have a job and life and
like on my spare time I'd rather like watch cool documentaries about science and like hang out
and I'm also into it, but I only have so much time.
Exactly.
But you're required to if you're a voting citizen in a republic.
Yeah, but it's like, am I required to like sift through all the noise or?
Yes, unfortunately.
I guess so. I mean, I
it just
do that
sucks,
more now than I did before the election. I really didn't think it was possible Trump could win, even though they said it's like 2/3 chance Hillary will win. People are like, oh, like she's definitely going to win. It's like no, that's like 66%.
Yeah. There's still a lot of other percent.
That's a lot of other percentage, right?
Yeah.
That's another thing. We can't trust polls, which I think helped fuel the fake news claims because he's like, see, told you I was going to win the whole time and I won.
Yeah, talk about
everyone
validation.
Else said I wasn't. So they're all fake,
but
it's the conspiratorial thinking that we covered in an earlier episode.
Yeah.
It's that idea of like, yeah, he's right. Like, I know they lie and they like, I know I feel like I'm being lied to. I can't point to a specific like, New York Times story or something to fact check because I don't have time to do the research, but I just feel like I'm being lied to. I can tell. So when he says fake news, it doesn't matter if he's correct because there is fake news out there. But the way he just throws it out there, fake news, like it lets you apply it to the parts you don't like in the news.
Yeah, exactly. But and also people are lied to in lots of ways. So like one of the problems with throwing out a term like fake news is like it does apply to a lot of situations. But then if you over apply it, then your basis for like your reality checking software, like it's like there's a bug in the system and you find out it's at the root of the system and then like everything becomes
it's all corrupted from
slippery
there. Yeah.
Once this idea that like you can't trust anything, it's like, well, I got to go back to the drawing board, And so the fake news thing, I think, is a scary way to inject distrust in some of the structurally significant things that like hold up a system, Like we know Fox News is more geared to the right, and we know MSNBC is more geared to the left, but there's a sense of like, well, you won't just say a completely false thing, right?
But a lot of these smaller, weird internet news outlets will do that.
Well, a lot of journalists on the right and on the left just tell lies. So it is true, people lie.
Yeah, of course.
I've like Glenn Greenwald, like you get into
sounds
the
like a made up name.
He's the guy that broke the I forget the CIA, the Snowden
WikiLeaks?
thing, I think?
Oh, really?
The WikiLeaks thing. Get into the details of what
the
he
Chelsea
writes.
Manning leak, I think,
filled
right?
with lies,
Really?
Yeah, he quotes people, but then quotes them out of context and writes a whole article.
So you're saying
about
there's
it.
a career in this?
I'm saying like clickbait.
Oh yeah.
Is
Yeah.
a
Big
big
time.
thing, you know?
Yeah, we actually cover that in my class, clickbait.
Clickbait. And
Yeah,
it's
in
like,
terms of titles,
I know
yeah.
how clickbait works because I'll scroll through my Facebook newsfeed, and when it says,
Yeah.
like, 12 things you won't believe about blah, blah, I'm like,
But everybody
ooh.
does it. CNN does it too. I actually don't really
it works
go to
as a-
I don't go to CNN's website most of the time now.
I don't go to any of the main news
I used to
sources'
do it just
websites.
because it was like, oh great, they're like a global news network. They're going to cover a lot of important stuff, some interesting stuff. But more and more they have these titles, and I'm like, oh, that sounds like something very serious that I didn't know about. And I click on it, and it's like, oh, actually, they didn't include this piece of information, and now it's a totally different story.
Right.
So I've noticed that kind of across the board, it feels like, where it's like, well, it's not a lie, but it's misleading in the sense of just trying to get me to click on their article, and then from there, they got me now. I'm watching their advertisement for their shitty video.
Whether you want to or not. You're
Yeah,
like, well,
they've
it says
drawn me in.
15 seconds, so I'll watch. And then all of a sudden in your subconscious, that advertisement is like injected.
Yeah.
So next time you're in the store, you're like, I'll choose this brand. I don't know why it looks better. Right?
Yeah,
Something
that's
like
how,
that.
and that's how they get you.
So
There's
what?
Sorry. There's one more thing I want to get to before we leave fake news. But, okay. Is the effect net neutrality is going to because that was a big thing of 2017.
thing,
yeah.
And I think that's going to
Since we're
be a
talking
factor
through
in the yeah.
It's huge.
And I use it constantly in my daily life, but it just its effect on fake news because now news outlets can go to internet service providers and pay to quell fake news or undesirable news or whatever.
Right.
Like,
Any news that
it's
they
a
choose.
It's a new ability they have in the marketplace that's not regulated currently. So and there's a lot of interest and money apparently in fake news and clickbait and advertising and all that. So I'm really curious now that there's a knob that they can adjust on the flow of the news, which is always bad in a democracy or republic in my mind. But okay, let's try it. And so I think that's gonna. The fake news of 2017, I don't think will be the same as the fake news of 2018 or 2019.
Well, it's going to evolve and get more subtle, right?
Yeah.
And one of the hopeful things is you see companies like Facebook or Twitter trying to get more of a handle on fake news and do something about it.
Yeah, because there was a lot of backlash against that.
And that's good because they were like, well, like it turns out they were a lot of like Russian.
Like you say, Facebook.
Isn't it fake news?
Right.
Isn't it fake news though for Facebook to try to convince me to buy shit I don't need? To trick me into it.
Well, that's
another
issue.
How's that not bringing fake information?
Advertisements for that. I don't want to like lump that into the same phenomenon as fake news.
Yeah, I mean that's an issue, but it's kind of
like
its own distinct issue.
Like
yeah.
it's the same category. It's tricking humans into thinking something,
Yeah, that's different than
Ideally.
Marketing is different than making adaptive algorithms that like function on concepts of psychology to make you want stuff before you realize it.
Well, so actually, one of the things, while we're still on the fake news topic, the general idea of cognitive ease versus cognitive dissonance. Our brains, when we encounter information that is complex and challenging us, it takes work to sort of sort that out. So when we encounter new information, it's almost like our brains don't know whether that's dangerous or not yet. So we sort of have to think about it a lot, have it go on repeat, and we analyze it a lot, and we have doubt towards it. Cognitive ease, on the other hand, is when we encounter something enough times, enough repetition, it just becomes part of reality. And I think that's happened with Trump. Like when he was first president, like, man, he's come out and give a press conference a few times where you're just like, what?
Yeah.
What did he just say?
You're like, this dude is unhinged.
He just spent a 10-minute period saying nonsense. Like if you just like wrote out what he said in written form.
Yeah.
Like Joe, you're a writing professor.
Oh,
it's what would you grade that?
It's at like it's at maybe like a 5th or 6th grade reading level.
I mean, there's good cause to think that he can't read very well,
or he can't think very well.
Well, there's even better cause for that.
Yeah, I mean, just
well,
that's
Scott Adams would argue that it's that's his manipulation technique or something that
honestly,
he uses.
From what I've heard of
certain
Scott Adams,
easily accessible language or whatever.
Yeah, but you can just read transcripts of what he says, and it's
it's
barely
crazy,
legible.
From what I've heard of Scott Adams, like he's this guy. If you want to look him up, but I advise you to save yourself the time. He
That's
has
a hell
like
of an endorsement.
He's studied a lot about how humans can manipulate people and like what's the word? I'm missing the word of this field.
Manipulation studies.
Yes, it's something like that. I think there's another word for it, but he really thinks Trump is some like genius manipulator.
I don't think that.
I'm sorry.
I think he's a manipulator.
I think he's a narcissist and a manipulator, but I don't think he's a genius manipulator.
No, I think he knows how to do it, and he's good.
I'm sorry, Luke. Are you president right now?
No, but
how close are you to becoming
president? That's a fair point, right? I just don't think someone like Scott Adams, like, I think he decided at some point that he wanted to like see Trump as one way, and then he sort of grounded himself.
Well, it's that now it's within that framework, right? To keep proving that, and that's something else we've talked about before, getting locked into these frameworks where it's like now you're just defending an angle that you've established is the objective reality, and nobody cares what your objective reality is.
Well, it's not your objective reality; it's your subjective reality.
No, but to you, it's objective reality. I mean, like so your perception of it.
Your internal model of reality with the real world.
Or the fact that
between
the real world doesn't care.
Reality and objective reality.
Right.
And I would say what I said at the very top of this episode about the eclipse and how we got there, the methods and tools of science.
Yeah.
I don't think science is the end-all, be-all, but it is the best way we have to negotiate objective reality from all the various subjective realities of people.
Yeah, between people, definitely.
Because we all have a different mind, a different version of what reality is. And one of the things this fake news, just Trump was like a bowling ball that came barreling into the system, right?
Yeah, an orange bowling ball.
An orange, fat, ugly bowling ball that grabs things by the pussy came barreling into the system and challenged all of our sense of like, okay, reality of like our government exists over there and it's just this secure thing. It's like, no. Okay, I'm going to say the monkey human thing again. You know what I mean, listeners. But this is a system made of monkey humans, and each one is a weak, like, mortal human like all of us,
can you say
and
that
we're prone to make mistakes.
That was really good. That was a really good one.
Oh, I can do a good monkey when pressed.
Monkey?
Because I am one. Oh, you better believe it, buddy.
There you go.
So I think we best be careful about how we distinguish between science, subjective realities, objective realities.
But that's what's so great about science. It doesn't care about that subjectiveness.
It's one of the most neutral, unwavering things, and it's not always kind. I mean, look at nature. You see some crazy shit, right?
Yeah.
You see like a lion like holding the throat of a zebra. It's not nice, but it's neutral. It just is, right? And I think a lot of...
Like the Force.
Oh, yeah, a little bit like the Force. I think a lot
sure.
of being human is, in a lot of ways, we rise above nature. But I think it's important that we don't forget that we're also right in nature.
Yeah.
And a lot of what you see acting out on the scale of local things, like groups of friends, families, but also on the scale of, like, governments and stuff, you see like behaviors that just remind us like, hey, we're part of nature, we're in nature.
I think there's a great George Carlin quote. I forget, Johnny, you might know it more clearly, but it's something along the lines of where he talks about, how far we've come as a civilization and all that, but then he says something like, but the reality is we're barely out of the fucking jungle. If you look evolutionarily, we're barely out of the fucking jungle and we have nukes.
That's why I like to call it concrete jungles.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, here's a great George Carlin quote too. To that point, it just reminded me of. He says, "You tell people that there's a man in the sky who controls everything, but you can't see him or hear him. They'll believe you. But if you tell them the paint's wet, they got to touch it to be sure."
Right.
I fucking love George Carlin.
Signs that say wet paint, and I'm like, is it really wet? Like,
we'll see about that.
Let me. Yeah, we'll see. I'll get to the bottom of this. Yeah. Oh yeah, it's wet.
It's
like, fake
and
news.
You're like, oh yeah. In fact, I see the guys painting up there. They probably just finished this area.
And also, my hand's full of wet fucking paint now.
Yeah, now I have white paint on my hands.
That's true.
Let's see. The one other thing that I noted down is, I want to encourage people as they think about like politics and it's super important to put up opposition to someone like Trump. I get it, but just consider this: when you have ecosystems, let's say you have, just for a simple example, a field, right? And you have two species, butterflies and flowers, right? If you there's a balance to that ecosystem, and they feed off of each other, right? So the butterflies or bees, I don't know how, choose your instinct insect that makes sense.
No, but, just keep rolling. Yeah.
The insect, goes to the flowers and feeds off of them, but each flower they land on, right? They pollinate other flowers. Yeah. So the more bees you have, the more pollination you're getting, and more flowers grow. But that allows the bees to increase, right?
So people understand the bee is basically nature's version of a turkey baster full of plant sperm, right?
A flying one, yeah.
Although I think it's more like they don't necessarily suck it up and then spit it back out. They just
it's
get
powdery.
It stuck to their body. So in this sense, like if you're talking to a Trump supporter, let's say, because I don't think we'll naturally have a lot of Trump supporter listeners on our podcast.
Yeah, but you might have people.
Although if you are, please keep listening and like. Yeah. I want to be as flexible a thinker as I can.
But there's a lot of people in the middle who are just sort of like, this is bullshit, that's bullshit. You know what? Trump said something
maybe
real.
Voted for him and
maybe.
Now you regret it, you know?
Or maybe you voted for him and you're still like, yeah, all the options are shitty.
But you have a choice. You can either... I'm getting emotional now.
Yeah, that's what you do.
You can either feed into the system and, create more bees and flowers that feed off of each other. Or you can realize the system you're in and realize that like the system is sort of designed to create polarization. Mm-hmm. And you can say, okay, I'm going to approach this from a different place. I'm going to take a step back and realize that emotions are important, but sometimes you have to step aside from emotions and just kind of have a more objective conversation with somebody, find them where they're at, figure out like why they voted the way they did or decided what they did, because the same righteousness that you feel of wherever you are in your thinking, someone who thinks the opposite feels that, right?
Are you saying to have productive conversations?
Yeah,
Luke?
Try to have like productive conversations.
Outrageous.
Something about this whole Trump era, it's like imagine if you're playing a hockey game, right? And like everybody likes to watch hockey, it's exciting. But if everybody just stopped following the rules...
That would be the best hockey game ever.
No, but eventually it wouldn't mean anything, right? It wouldn't mean anything to say, I won the hockey game, right?
Right.
So I see a lot of conversations going down where people are just using, like, shitty, dishonest, intellectually dishonest tactics just to win.
It works into the polarization of it, yeah.
Yeah, but they don't even realize they're feeding this monster that's going to end up destroying a civilization.
Well,
it's like
happened
the beginning
before.
Seeds of destroying. If you get rid of conversation as being the thing that we come back to.
Well, and negotiation.
Negotiation, and of course you don't negotiate endlessly. Like you don't negotiate to say, okay, you can have slavery, but only for 6 months of the. That's not a negotiation I'm talking about. I'm saying like don't ever think like, well, I shouldn't talk to this person because whatever. It's like no, talking is one of the tools that.
Yeah.
Us intelligent chimpanzee-like creatures have.
And that's
otherwise we're throwing poop at each other and ripping each other's limbs
And that
off.
was the problem in 2016 with the social media bubbles, and like you said, how nobody thought Trump could win because everybody who disagreed with anybody who said anything about Trump just deleted them from their Facebook, Twitter, whatever. And then you get into these bubbles where you're like, oh yeah, everybody is going to vote for Hillary.
Everybody thinks the way I think.
I have 400 friends on Facebook. They're all voting for Hillary, so that's most of the people.
The former CEO of Facebook even said we fucked up. Like, we didn't mean to make Facebook into this.
Yeah, well, that's fair.
It's turned into these weird bubbly echo chambers, and like I don't know what to do about it. I'm not there anymore. But like he even admitted, like, it's not good for us as a peoples.
Yeah. And last thing I'll say on this topic is one clue that you can sort of have for yourself personally, and I've caught myself in this plenty of times. I'm not putting myself outside of this. When you feel that sense of like self-righteousness, that's a clue that you should step back and genuinely ask yourself, do I have good reasons for thinking and believing what I do? And that's a good just sort of like mental program to download.
We've talked about that too.
We've talked about that too, but I think in the political world, people can often like put it in a category of like, well, it doesn't count.
Yeah.
Like if you're with your wife or husband, you might say like, well, I was wrong yesterday when I said XYZ. Yeah. But you wouldn't necessarily do that as easily with something political.
Yeah. But that's that's a problem that's sort of become the process.
Yeah.
But it winds up nothing gets done because I think Trump admitted that actually about something that he was negotiating where he said like, oh yeah, we're going to do this. And everybody was like, no, that's insane. That's too extreme. And then it wound up getting negotiated down to something else. And he said, oh yeah, that's negotiation. You say something really far to one side.
That he does on purpose.
But
I'm going to build a wall, politics, but he just means I'm going to make immigration a priority.
He meant it metaphorically the whole time.
Metaphorically,
that's what he meant. Maybe he did.
Yeah, but now you're trying to like game theory people.
I'm not trying to do that.
I'm saying when you think like that, like, oh, it's just a big game, and that's how things get out of hand, and people become just like parts of the game and not people.
Yeah.
Which is bad.
So that's our message, I think, is
yeah.
is the number one thing I would like to see people get better at in 2018. I would like to see more intellectual honesty. Stop playing games. Stop trying to win arguments for the sake of winning. Try to zoom out a little bit and figure out what is my best intentions in this moment and how do I move forward in the best way.
Right.
Two really funny quick things about Trump, just to like kind of bookend this Trump thing.
Yeah, let's get done with Trump.
One time he was on camera, talking to the camera. His wife Melania was right next to him, to his left, and he said, "My wife's sorry she can't be here. She really wanted to be here for this. Blah blah blah." Just totally.
Yep.
Another thing is
that checks out.
When the Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe was here.
This is already funny.
Trump
because he hates that guy.
Trump did not put in his translation earpiece as the guy was speaking.
Oh yeah, he was
looking at Shinzo Abe and nodding along as if he knows Japanese.
Oh yeah, good.
Now that's the kind of thing if Obama did, like, just imagine the way the media would be after it. But now it's like that didn't even make the front page.
No.
Like, U.S. president pretends to understand Japanese. It's like, nope, not important because he also grabs people by the pussy.
Could you imagine if Obama had done
hyper normal?
All right. Any other thoughts on Trump? I think we need to. We need to recognize some of the other like good things that happened.
I have one thing I want to talk about with 2017 that I think will be important for 2018, but also beyond 2018, and that was something that I really I had been following it, but I really got into it in 2017, which is everything that SpaceX has been doing and the private space industry.
Elon Musk is very inspiring.
He's killing it, and so what I really liked about that, I mean, they reached a lot of jumped a lot of hurdles this year, such as using reusable rockets. That's huge.
When you see a rocket landing, it almost looks like the video's being played in reverse.
Did you see that's what it looks like.
Did you see the latest thing from him? Sending he wants to drive a roadster around on Mars.
Of course he does.
Because it's an electric car, so it should theoretically work on Mars if you could find a flat spot. Well, it doesn't need air for combustion. So he said he's going to send one.
Well, so
it's fucking awesome.
Next year he's two people, or the plan is for two people to go around the moon, like a moon trip around the moon in an automated ship. And my point is, sort of like what we were talking about earlier.
Two astronauts.
No, two like rich people who are going to pay like $30 million to do it.
I would pay to do that. Would you guys do it?
I would absolutely do it, but that's my point is that we haven't had that sort of
that would be a life-changing experience.
Yeah, we haven't had that sort of like cosmic, life-changing, uniting experience since the moon landing.
Do you think they'd let you bring acid?
No.
You could probably sneak it on.
If you're paying $30 million,
the TSA is like scanning you before you get on.
No, it's a private space flight.
Yeah, you're paying $30 million for it. Can't you pay like 31 and be like, just don't ask me what's in this?
I think Elon would be down.
I don't know. I mean, I think going around the moon and seeing the view of Earth from the moon and seeing Earth
that's worth 30
just
mil.
Like resting in the sort of
just hanging. Dangling in the emptiness
in the infinity of like
that's gold,
space.
Baby. Yeah, that's good stuff.
I don't need anything else to like tweak my consciousness.
Yeah, that's acid enough, as far as.
Well, it's not about tweaking it. It's about, you do that when you're after like on your way back or whatever, and then because it doesn't last
Johnny,
for a while.
Johnny, just enjoy the ride, man.
Yeah,
it
takes like a week before I bring acid.
I would not bring a joint. I might.
I don't know how smoking a joint in like.
There's definitely one of those like no smoking signs like they have on airplanes where you're thinking.
I would probably die.
Why is that still a light up sign?
I'm in space.
There's no.
I would probably personally die of a panic attack if I took acid in space. I would never do that, but
I might die of a panic attack just in space.
Somebody has to at some point. We have to test drugs in space.
No,
So
that's
it's
true.
definitely going to be some rich guy doing it.
No,
though.
it
It's
is
not going to be like a government.
But it's good that this is. I think this is really good that this is happening again, because this is, like you were saying, the eclipse, how that really kind of brings people together. I think space travel and like space exploration and space hurdles. We saw that with we didn't get to see it with the moon landing because we're too young. But I think in the coming years and next year, SpaceX is planning to. I think the plan right now is to build the first. It's called the BFR, which is, depending on your translation.
Big fart reverser.
Well, it's supposed to be. It could be that. That's the app. It stands for Big Falcon Rocket, but the joke is that it actually stands for Big Fucking Rocket. Because it's supposed to be the rocket that takes us to Mars. Okay. That's the plan.
That's the one SpaceX is making?
This is SpaceX, but it's multi-purpose, so we'll be able to launch satellites. So the design is supposed to be very economical. It's supposed to take us to the moon. He wants to build a moon base. So all this stuff is coming really starting in 2018. And 2017 was kind of the preface to that, because it was really the first time that we were able to recycle these rockets. He started doing it. So next year he's going to try doing it with bigger rockets.
This sounds
really
dumb
cool
to say, but I think it makes sense. Like, we've never been closer to 2020.
Thank God, though.
And but when I was a kid, you thought to 2020, you're like, what is the world going to be like?
Yeah,
then?
That's like Blade Runner type shit, you know, like, or
but, like,
video
we're
game
almost
shit.
there, baby, and it's like we're all.
I'm excited for
2018.
2018.
You know, we're all involved.
I'm looking more forward to 2018 than I was 2017 for sure.
Yeah, I'm hopeful.
I'm excited.
I'm naturally
honestly.
a hopeful person.
Oh, really?
I'm thankful for that.
Yeah, why not?
But
you're not worried for the supercell storm that just doesn't stop and just
I'm
keeps
worried
growing?
about a lot of things. But,
the day after tomorrow storm that's going to happen?
The
dirty bombs that are coming?
Have you ever listened to the podcast called Talk Nerdy with me, or Talk Nerdy, whatever? It's Cara Santa Maria's podcast. It's a
sounds like
she's like a science communicator. She's super smart, and I listen to her podcast like every few episodes, depending on the guest. And she asks the same two questions at the end of every episode to her guests. She says, on one side, when you're going to sleep at night, when you're thinking deeply, what is the thing that keeps you up at night that you most worry about? And then she says, but on the flip side, what are you most hopeful about? What are you most excited about? What gets your gears turning, you know? And that's a good two-sided question to ask people, because there's so much to be worried about and there's so much suffering in life, but there's also a lot, if you look on the other side genuinely, you'll find a lot of, like, Elon Musk is an inspiring person. Like, there's an energy of just like of like, he's not scared to do things, you know? Like, sometimes I'm like, all right, I need to do laundry, then go to the grocery store.
And Elon's like, I'm going to make moon tunnels
No,
now.
but like, I'm like, oh, I can't handle that today. Like, that's too much stuff. I need to practice also, and I got this and this. I got to send this email. And like, I'm stressing out about that, but Elon's like, you know what? I think I want to build a rocket that takes us to Mars. And then like, the between having that thought and doing that thing is so much detail and bullshit and hoops.
Well, that's like, even
how do you build a hyperloop?
I
don't know.
That's what I mean. I was watching the SpaceX rocket launch the other day, and if you watch it from like 20 minutes before, because they explain everything that's going on with like the pre-gas jets and stuff, it's like, yeah, no wonder it took his company 15 fucking years
also,
to like successfully launch their first rocket. I don't know. That's my point. It's insane.
I can barely get a permit to build a back porch if I wanted to.
What's crazy?
Nor would I know how to build a back porch if I wanted to.
Yeah, I can't build a porch. Never mind a rocket.
To
what's
anywhere.
Crazy is he's decided he was gonna go to Mars and build rockets to do it when he had a fledgling car company that's still not making money yet, and he's like, yeah, that'll be okay though. It's doing okay.
Yeah, but you have that luxury
while
when
that's
you invent
happening
PayPal.
though. But while that's happening, I'm also going to just go and make rockets. And, while the rocket thing is working itself out, once it's self-running, I'm going to go, like, pioneer this Hyperloop. Like, he just wants to do things. I wish we had more billionaires like that.
Yeah, if every billionaire was
awesome.
like that would be something, right?
Or even if 10 more of them were like that.
You know what a weird detail about Elon Musk is? So my girlfriend is Turkish, so I have a sort of sense of, like, what's going on in the Turkish news and with politics there and these kinds of things. And Elon Musk recently, like back in November, made a visit to Turkey. And he was, he became like in Turkey on like on Twitter and Instagram in Turkish, like people were like freaking out about Elon Musk being there, and he was taking pictures of all the tourist sites and like tweeting them out. But he was also like very friendly with the president there, because he's like moving some kind of business there, you know.
Oh, really?
I don't know the details, but
he's
like,
doing business everywhere
business
though, like Puerto Rico, Australia. He's trying to.
It was kind of weird. I
everywhere.
couldn't quite figure out like, you know, what the status of that kind of relationship would be, you know, like
I hope
the
he
same way
builds a
Dennis
hyper.
Rodman is friends with the North Korea guy. You know,
this seems slightly more productive than that, though.
Yeah.
I hope Elon Musk is like, someone's going to build a Hyperloop across the Bosphorus. I want to be the guy that does it, because they'll call it the Musk Tube for the next 1,000 years.
You guys want?
I bet that's what it is.
Guess who the other celebrity is that weirdly has a lot of pictures and has spent a lot of time with the Turkish president Erdogan?
Billy Joel.
It's a girl.
I was going to say Billy Crystal. That's so weird that
Lindsay
we picked Billy's
Lohan.
show.
To what end?
She's friends with him? Well, because she
like,
probably
wears a headscarf and everything now.
To what end?
I don't know. It's just kind of
what's the angle?
Okay, so like,
what's the game?
The Trump part of reality has really put a challenge on like my reality software.
I mean,
but so has shit like this.
I mean, it's
why
fine.
is Dennis Rodman friends with the president of North Korea?
It's fine. It's just that Lindsay
know.
Lohan's from like a few towns that way, I think.
Dennis Rodman did say Trump should send him as an official envoy. He would go and represent the United States, which is terrifying.
Yeah.
Well, that's also terrifying.
No, it's terrifying, but I mean, they seem to be good friends from the. Did you see the Vice documentary?
I did. It was incredible.
Yeah, I mean, they seem to be like best buds, and if he can convince that guy not to start nuking people, okay.
I'm down with that.
At this point, it's 2017. It's like I think Jimmy Kimmel said when Roy Moore didn't get reelected. Oh yeah, we didn't reelect a alleged pedophile to the Senate. Which,
good for us.
Yeah, we're celebrating really hard, which is kind of sad, but it's 2017. We'll take what we can get at this point, honestly, you know? So
yeah.
I think that's, that's kind of how the year's gone, and I think we've made some progress just kind of stepping back and now being able to reflect, and that's why I think I'm more hopeful for 2018. I think 2017 was really a processing year of everything that's happened, and sort of like everything that we've talked about with Trump, just dealing with that and getting through how this is maybe going to go for the next few years. But exactly, we did get through it.
We're here.
And I think there's a lot to look forward to, whether that's, political awareness that we've talked about, or a lot of this other stuff with like science and technology and Elon Musk, the Iridium satellites. I think I sent that to you the other day, the video of that. Really cool.
Right.
I'll post a link of that, because that actually it's this whole thing that they're doing with like radar tracking of planes that's going to make plane travel much more efficient. Because rather than just using ground radar, it's specific.
Using satellite and ground radar?
It's specifically to coordinate between that. So it's supposed to make just like a lot more route options for planes. So it's supposed to make it much more efficient. So things are happening. Things are still happening, and
speaking of things
that's pretty
happening,
cool.
I've had a lot of coffee and beer. I'm gonna pee really quick. But we'll riff for just a few more minutes. And do you guys have like would you rather, that kind of shit?
I have a fact that I think is pretty good.
Okay.
Or do I?
So you guys keep riffing. I'm going to pee out this coffee and beer.
Yep.
I mean, you can just
you can just go. Look, we could talk. You don't have you don't have to explain everything.
I mean, he can. It's fine. We'll take care of it.
I'm currently streaming.
I'm streaming pretty hard and heavy. But now I'm.
So is that what you're most excited for in 2018? The like space stuff?
Dude, I got really into the space stuff this past year, and because a lot of it was a long time coming. I mean, SpaceX was founded, I think, going back to like the early 2000s, like 2000 or 2002 or 3 or something.
I think it was 2002.
Yeah, but I had no idea it existed until probably like 5-6 years ago. Because a lot of it was just R&D, like they were trying to come up with this shit. And now this year they were finally able to do stuff like land reusable rockets. So for anybody who doesn't know, basically, I'll post links to this too, because it really is unbelievable. But what they're able to do now, SpaceX, this private space company, is launch up a rocket, get to a certain altitude, the payload, which has all the good stuff, whether that's satellites or supplies to the International Space Station, all that sort of thing, that separates and keeps going. And the big part, the main rocket part that got it up that high, falls back down. It has these little flaps that, sort of right the ship. And then when it gets close, it shoots another jet, like a
retro rocket.
Yeah, and it propulsively lands on these like little feet. And
fucking floating platforms in the ocean. That's amazing.
Yeah, it lands on drone ships in
that.
the ocean too. And this shit seems sci-fi. And people who you read the comments on these YouTube videos, and most of them, some of them are people joking about how that's not real, but a lot of people think that it's fake. They think it's a joke. And I think that they honestly think that. But this is real stuff, and they've finally been able to reuse some of these rockets, and they're planning bigger rockets now. And again, there's another plan that he has. So the BFR I was talking about earlier that he wants to send to Mars and the moon and all that stuff. He also realized that, hey, you could use this to get from like New York City to Shanghai in like 30 minutes as well. And if you make it fully reusable, then really your only cost becomes upkeep, maintenance, and fuel cost. And then it becomes like a commercially viable option where, yeah, you pack enough, a few hundred people in, and, it doesn't cost much more than a commercial airline ticket. And to get from New York City to the other side, literally the other side of the planet.
And if anything, it'd be more efficient. It'd be more efficient. You could make it more efficient than a plane that has to
it's much more,
fly for 20-something hours.
Yeah, it would be much more efficient
burn fuel the whole
for
time.
a variety of reasons. Yeah, fuel costs, just
speed,
crew that you have to hire to be on it.
Yeah.
Like
that
all
about
factors
perspectives too. Like planes are ridiculous from the perspective of like, hey, I'm sitting next to this sweaty fat guy who's like moaning and farting for 12 hours as I fly to Europe.
Luke, did you have a bad experience?
Oh, you better believe it.
Isn't that crazy though? That I saw some special called "The City in the Sky," and they said that at any given time, because there's so much air travel, there's 100,000 people in the air, and it's really like a city of it's just nuts to think about. Like at any given time in Earth's history, there were a bunch of people crammed on wooden boats trying not to die, and now it's just there's a different version of it.
Yeah,
just
now they're taking
a
dump on a plane, complaining that the Wi-Fi doesn't fucking
right,
work.
and next it's going to be people on rockets complaining about how the hum is too loud or whatever.
Yeah, right.
It's like
you're
fucking flying through space.
About being on a tube going 500 miles per hour over the Atlantic Ocean.
Well, you take a
rusty
Wi-Fi signal's a little spotty.
Yeah.
That's actually a Louis C.K. joke that I used to love, like when people complain about cell phones. He's like,
nope. You can't reference him anymore.
Oh,
he's persona non grata. Nope.
I forgot.
All of his stuff's been pulled.
I'll spare you the Louis C.K. humor.
Sorry.
But we can steal his jokes now, right? They're public domain. Is that how this works?
Technically.
Yeah. When you get accused of something, any any intellectual property of yours is public domain.
You forfeit it. Yeah, it's
just
over.
International salvage laws under Admiralty law.
Yeah.
It's a shipwreck now. You can claim it.
Well.
Yeah.
So we're doing pretty good on time.
I think we can.
Was there anything else, like any kind of just like quick funny things of 2017 that?
Well, I did.
Is it part of your fact or fiction?
I did learn an interesting fact recently, Luke.
I just wanted to remind people about the United Airlines thing. Remember when the guy got dragged off?
Oh, he got the shit kicked out of him.
The
doctor.
Google puts out a this year in search thing in different categories. So I think the top meme was the United Airlines memes after this happened. So the one I saw, it was hilarious. It was like a beautiful picture of like the United Airlines plane flying through like a sunset sky or whatever, right? Perfect advertisement image. But then the words had been changed to, "We put the hospital in hospitality."
That's pretty good.
That's pretty good. I like that. I definitely like that.
But it's a cool thing. You can go just Google like this year in searches on Google, and they compile a list. You can just get to see what people are thinking about.
Well, it's going to be good. 2018. We're going to have much more beer. We're going to have much more to talk about. If you're with us, I think we'll be able to get through 2018 together, right?
Yeah, I think you're either with us or you're against us.
Join or die.
No, I mean the opposite of that. I hope you understand that's the theme of this.
Yeah, no, don't join or die. Just join, and we'll be fine.
Just join or not join, but let's hang out and talk either way.
Yeah, and we'll have
whatever
really
level of relationship you need to get through 2018. If you just want to pop in and check in on us, if you want to listen regularly.
By the way, going into 2018, we're going to still do episodes where we hang out like this, but we're going to heavily try to integrate guests.
We're going to have some good guests
taking
coming
our
up,
vibe,
for sure,
whatever we've developed here, and trying to move it forward to talking to people. All different kinds of people. Like their qualification might be only that Johnny calls them a wizard.
Or they could have a real job. It's going to be both.
Or they could have a real job.
Yeah. And
a lot of them do.
And both are interesting in their own ways.
2 people I've reached out to that are listeners, I think, that would be down. A friend of ours that works at Google, two friends of ours that are coffee roasters.
Yeah, we have some interesting guests coming
somebody
up. Yeah.
in like the animal science world.
I'm sorry, did you say ooh ooh ah?
Ooh ooh ah ah world.
I can get us a lot of different research scientists and stuff too.
Right.
a
Pretty cool to draw
Joe and
from.
I have enough connections at the university we went to that.
And beer people. I know a lot of beer people.
And beer people too.
This is a thunk tank.
I think I might even be able to get a Sand City brewer on here.
That would be great. That would be really cool. Shout out to Sand City.
Yeah.
For sure.
We'll get some of their beer soon. I hope their tasting room opens. Anybody who's a Sand City fan,
send us beer.
Yeah. I didn't go to they had a release with Other Half Brewing in Queens.
Oh yeah, that's right.
They opened the doors at 10 a.m. At 11:45 they tweeted out, sold out.
Yeah, I love following those tweets where it's like, lines out the door already, better get on it.
All right, so Joe, you got a fact or fiction for us here?
Well, no, I was just doing some research, and I realized that...
Okay.
I'm already trying to dupe Luke, and he knows it.
Joe tries to
Wait, hold on. Guys.
What?
Fake. Fiction. He's calling it now.
He's calling it.
Johnny tends to call things beforehand.
He draws upon the ether of genie wisdom that he has.
He feels the Force.
The real thing is, yes, I'm a Jedi. That was it.
He's a genie Jedi.
If any of our friends would be a Jedi, like in some weird way,
it would be Johnny. It would definitely be Johnny.
No offense.
No, it's actually
offense,
I do it because it's a game theory thing from a Philip K. Dick book about how it's the only way to beat a telepath at cards is to not look at your cards.
Wait, you told me
that's
this
clever,
thing.
Yeah.
There was like an alien species that came down.
Oh,
right?
and they played the card game,
They were playing a card game, and the aliens always beat the humans because they could read their minds. And then this one character figured out how to beat them by not looking at the cards at all. And the aliens were like, wait, what are you doing? And he's like, well, you don't want to win by cheating that way, do you? And then they couldn't guess the cards because he never saw them, so they couldn't read his mind.
So he went from 100% chance of losing to a 50-50 chance of losing, which is a huge jump.
That's a great strategy, yeah.
And Joe knows my brain too well that I have to try to get out in front of it or he's going to game me.
I love how Johnny mapped the model where we're doing a podcast and it's a game called Fact or Fiction, but to Johnny, Joe is an alien who reads minds, and you have to not get...
And it's life or death of the Earth.
Well, yeah, isn't it? You gotta have fun with it.
No, that's fine. I like it because it's almost like I feel genie-esque, but more like an alien, which that's my vibe.
Life or death, though, I like to make situations into that. When we say, like, all right, we have to win this game, it's life or death, it's like, what you're saying is you're trying to trigger... The
stakes are up, yeah.
You're trying to trigger the part of your brain that's like, the stakes are high, and I'm going all in or all out, right?
Right.
There are moments where it's helpful to think that. I love, like, in my own, like, music studies, sometimes, like, you're playing a certain piece, and I've had teachers describe things as, like, you're playing this as if you're, like, watching a sunset on a mountain eating a granola bar, but this is life and death.
That's beautiful.
You should sound like it, you know? And
That's
it's
like,
it reminds you, like, don't connect with this on the shallow way, like, connect with it deep.
Yeah, get into the grain there.
Yeah, and so whether it's a fact or fiction, whether it's a would you rather, it's like, make your brain really go for it.
Yeah. So having said that,
dude, I think 2 beers makes me a little more buzzed in the early afternoon than like at 5 p.m.
When did you drink the second beer?
I'm almost done with my second beer.
Did you eat any food yet today?
You didn't eat food
Luke?
today, did you?
I had some oatmeal.
I don't really believe that.
I believe it. It's just not enough.
Yeah.
You know?
Ask Joe. I've got PermaSmile on.
He does have. He's got the PermaSmile squint going.
Is he Care Bear staring you, Joe?
Yeah.
He's giving you the Care Bear face.
It's sunny in here, though.
It's always sunny in Lucadelphia.
All right, Joe, go for it.
Well, do you remember back to the year 2000?
In the year 2000.
2000.
That's true. Yeah. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
So in the year 2000, which was a great year, a fantastic year, one of the best years.
All right, Trump.
It was a tremendous year.
Tremendous year.
Huge year.
You ever hear of a year called 2000, folks?
Huge.
Big
huge year. And in fact, it was a huge year for photographs for photography. In fact, there were about 80 billion photos taken worldwide in the year 2000.
Whoa.
Having said that.
On digital cameras?
Total. There were 80.
How do they count that?
It's a rough estimate of, who...
They take a sample size of 10,000 and then extrapolate to...
Yeah, the Kodak Analysis Institute, the Chi, is on that. So that was in 2000. There were 80 billion photos taken. This year, it's estimated that the total photos taken between all types of photos, but mostly digital now, will be not 80 billion, not 100 billion, not 500 billion, not a trillion, but 1.3 trillion photos worldwide.
In what year?
In 2017.
That's the estimate?
That's the estimate for this year.
How many more people exist in 2017 than 2000?
Probably at least a billion.
Now, I have a question about the game, too.
Maybe.
Like, if I ask you a follow-up question...
You can ask me questions.
Is this, all lies? Or, are you going to tell the truth, about the follow-up question?
Oh, I'll tell the truth. I might just be wrong.
I know that. Okay, but you're giving me
Wait, no. That means he's making it up.
Wait, Johnny's sniffing out my...
See, Luke, the way he said that...
to be wrong.
Yeah.
Right?
He might be wrong. He goes...
Like the guy who goes,
yeah, it should be around there. He has no idea. Because,
I'm like the guy who doesn't know his cards.
Well, I've heard about this bar at Burning Man where they always lie. And that's like a shtick. And so you get there and, you get a drink. You sit down at the bar and you start talking to the bartender. And they start telling you this story about, who they are, their background, how they got to going to Burning Man and whatever. And then at some point, it's, such a ridiculous story that you're like, wait a second, this is the lying bar. And they, break character. They're like, yeah, you got me. So I was making that up. My real name's Steve.
It's just the
blah,
dick
blah,
bar?
blah. And they start talking again.
They're just assholes?
The second part is also a lie. It's all lies.
But how is this a gimmick? Why would you go to this bar?
Well, I'm saying, this is you right now.
It's drugs, yeah.
You could say it's not you, but you've started the game by giving me a fact. But it's a fact that might not be a fact.
It's a fake news
And then
simulator.
I asked you if I asked
a
follow-up question,
I like how incensed
is any
Luke
of the
gets
information you're giving me accurate? And you say yes, except if I don't know it, I'll still, say it. And so, basically, I just don't... You're useless to me. So, Johnny, I'm only talking to you in this game now.
Okay.
Wow, okay, fine.
This is a fake news simulation because we get to fact check it at the end and find out. Be like, damn it, we fell for the fake news or not.
No, I'll be honest with you. I'll be honest with you.
So what?
You can trust me.
Well, okay. So 1.3 trillion was it?
1.3 trillion.
And what was the number in 2000?
80 billion. And there's about 7.1 billion humans or 7.
Johnny, I would.
Yeah. How many smartphones are there?
Well, that's what I was
going to
say. I would think that is true, if only for the number of smartphones that exist now compared to 2000. I mean, no smartphones existed in 2000, as far as I know.
I don't think so. Yeah.
And certainly, even the flip phones that might have existed probably didn't have cameras on them yet.
Or people weren't going around taking a ton of pictures still.
But even then, until
there were
you
digital
get to
cameras.
The iPhones that I know there were, but you have to go out of your way to own a digital camera.
And people weren't posting them to Instagram because it didn't exist.
Well, yeah,
right.
That's true.
How many people do you know who have Instagram accounts who have posted 500 photos in the past year?
And they wouldn't think to take pictures and post them and all that.
Right. If it was on a Kodak.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, I don't really use the Instagram and stuff, so
that's true too. Some people don't.
As evidenced by you saying the Instagram
on the internet.
Yeah, the interwebnessgrams. But I don't use that stuff, so I don't know really what people's frequency of posting. I would just have to go on smartphone usage because there's a shitload in Africa now and Asia too, right?
That's true, yeah.
Well, also even for people in really challenging economic situations where they're barely getting by, they still have a smartphone.
Right?
Yeah,
because
exactly.
So
let's say there's a billion. Let's just say there's a billion smartphone users out there.
There's probably more than that.
Let's just say a billion.
Yeah, sure.
If they take a picture a day, that's what, 300 billion? So if they take 4 pictures a day, that would hit our number. So if there's
probably more than
if there's
a billion.
If there's 100 million taking 10 plus pictures a day,
I don't know math.
So
does
Johnny,
that get us to our number? You know what I mean?
The main gesture I'm getting from your math is that I think it's true.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't take all that many people taking a few pictures a day to get to 1.3 trillion.
Luke's looking at me like, you bastard.
I'm looking at him like I'm playing a poker game right now. I'm just like waiting for him to break.
Well, let's think about
I'm
a wedding
looking
with...
over my glasses.
Yeah,
like,
let's got the over-the-rim glasses. Look.
Let's think of a wedding with about 200 people. You have maybe the photographer takes like 100 pictures. And, but everybody at...
Johnny
everybody
like the let's go to a wedding all of a sudden. Like,
let's go to a wedding. Well, I'm genieing up. I'm warming up. You know?
We fell into the genie
Johnny
hole.
broke out his bottle of genie lube and he's just rubbing it all over his body now.
Is my camera on? I thought I turned it off.
It's not on.
Oh, you meant metaphorically, right? Me too.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Johnny's like, yeah, I don't buy a product on Amazon every month called Genie Lube and
Yeah,
rub myself and say, who's the best genie?
you don't get that monthly.
That was
You get it by
not what you were
get
just
that by
doing.
the drum once a year, you know. But anyway. But yeah,
I
think
have
about
off
a
today.
wedding.
I wonder what I'm going to do after this.
Luke, stay focused.
Focus.
So let's say there's 200 people at a wedding. Photographer takes a couple hundred pictures, but everybody at the wedding is going to have their phone out and take at least a dozen pictures, right?
That's true.
So
I was at a wedding and I saw somebody on their phone take a video of like the 7-minute speech, the best man speech, and I'm thinking to myself, you're not gonna watch that ever, you idiot. Like
that's a true point.
no,
Probably.
my favorite is when people
Wasted.
take videos of fireworks.
Yeah, it's like
it looks
stop
so
taking
terrible
the video
on
of the
your-
fireworks and just enjoy
The
them.
video's not gonna ever be as close
Put
as
the
good to
phone
the
away.
real fireworks.
And just watch it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you think this is?
I think it's. I already said fake though, so I got to stick by it. But I'm starting to think it's real. But
But you can
I
change.
can't-
You can change your vote. That's
You're
fine.
allowed to
I
change,
know.
but I like your method. Of
Yeah,
just
I'm gonna
choosing.
stick with this method.
You like your method of calling it.
Well,
before?
but Johnny, you know why I
No.
like when you have to stick with whatever you said beforehand. I know I can bounce questions off of you, and I'm gonna get like a
No,
more
but
honest
he
answer.
said it beforehand
Yeah.
before I said what the fact was.
Yeah,
What?
but
That's not a point of like.
No, I'm saying because he's committed to what he said. I don't think he's trying to convince me to vote his way necessarily.
But
you
why
know?
would he be convinced to make you vote his
I'm
way?
saying it takes away motivation from him, so it's like, well,
Oh, I see what you're
he's
saying.
saying he distrusts me as a genie less.
I just generally distrust
if he knows
you
where
in
I
general.
stand ultimately.
Well, he is a
yeah.
genie.
It's just smart.
We've already discussed that.
Yeah.
You know how you want to be.
Okay, I'm
mindful
gonna
of
say
genies.
true though.
You're gonna say true, and
Yeah.
Johnny, you stick with fake.
Yeah, I have a feeling it's probably like 10 trillion or something crazy, so I stick with
Well,
fake.
like, yeah, there are themes to these fact or fictions where it's something that either sounds ridiculous but is true,
Yeah.
or it sounds reasonable but it's false because it's even more
Yeah,
ridiculous.
it turns out it's like 5 trillion.
Yeah.
Which, as a matter of fact, it is actually 1.3 trillion.
It is.
True
Damn it.
fact. Yeah.
Damn it.
Nailed it.
Yeah.
How many smartphones are there in the world?
Oh,
Is that part of your?
I don't know.
Okay.
I have no idea. But I would. assume-
1.3 trillion.
Yeah. And
Well,
that's a crazy number. So here's an interesting fact. Since in like 2011, it was only, I think it was 500 billion photos. So it's more than like doubled in the past, just 5-6 years or so. So it's almost like it's getting close to sort of like an exponential curve where it's just like every year it's way more photos.
So a trillion is 8,000 million, right?
Uh,
To go from to show the range from 80 million to a trillion.
Sure. I mean, math is numbers.
It's orders of magnitude. Yeah.
Right. So a trillion is 1,000 billions, right? Or
Yeah.
or
yeah,
or
yeah,
10
right.
or 10,000
a million
millions.
is 1,000 thousands.
You're not qualified to say thousands right now.
I know.
Yeah.
A million is
A trillion is 1,000 billions.
thousands.
Yeah.
A billion is 1,000 millions. And
Right. Yeah. It's just
you're adding 3
1,000
zeros,
of whatever.
and 3 zeros is 1,000.
So
with a one
80
in front.
million.
Well, yeah,
Oh,
I mean,
forget
like
it.
those amount of digits after anything.
Otherwise, it's just 3 zeros.
After anything other than zero, because then it's just still
It's
zero.
still zeros,
It's just
yeah.
an inefficient way to write zero.
Yeah.
As I have $0 in my bank account. How much? Oh, 0.00000.
Wait, was that .000?
It could be
Also.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So well done. I like the way
All
you
right.
guys
That was
thought
a
through
good
that.
one though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's just how life has changed over the years. There's
So
a
not
lot more
only
photo culture.
has the internet and social media become such a thing now, our access to it is more personal than it ever has been. Like in a lot of ways.
Yeah, it's more like voyeuristic too, where they take these photos of things where it's like, wouldn't have normally ever seen that, right? It's the same thing with like you see on Snapchat stuff.
Well,
isn't even counted into the equation.
And that comes down to the UFO thing. And we were talking about in the conspiracy episode. It's like if they existed or if there were good videos of that shit, everybody's carrying around a smartphone these days. We would be seeing videos all the time of that. You know.
You would think somebody would have gotten it.
Guys, Joe keeps hitting refresh. We're at 199 Twitter followers.
And remember the reward for the 200th Twitter follower.
It's whatever we said.
I don't think you want to stick to that.
I don't know what I said, though.
Well, I said some things about you singing a poem in German. And Johnny made it high German.
We really committed you to.
Yeah, you're committed.
Quite a thing.
You're committed to our 200th follower.
Speaking of like social media and like internet and smartphones, I was just thinking like these rectangles that we carry around in our pocket, they are like portals into how we build our reality.
Oh, they're so cool.
And that's amazing. And the internet is an amazing place because of that. But also beware, because it can be a rectangle that takes you into building a reality that's not quite like in tune with other people's building of reality.
Yeah. And TVs were like that before, and like this is different.
Well, TVs were like that, but like we were all unified in our access to a unified TV.
And what came on
it's different though, because it's about the participation level.
And it's about the bubble
TV,
though, too.
TV you turn on and you can check out. It's not the same dopamine responses. I said something and I'm waiting for a response, or I posted something and somebody commented on it. It does something to our, as Luke likes to say,
why don't we have 200 followers?
Yeah.
And I like to keep on my desktop. It's sitting right here on a little Post-it. It's because I used to use Facebook and stuff, and I was like, I just didn't like it. I didn't like how it made me feel and think. So I keep a Jackie Kennedy quote because she said once, "I want to live my life, not record it." So whenever I do like start Instagramming or something, or someone has me check it or whatever, I'm like, okay, I would try to think of that. Like I don't want to just get caught up in recording it and documenting things and, God.
Yeah.
But having said that, if you found us on social media, that's great. I like you guys.
No, I mean,
it's social media is great if you use it right.
You can use it equally for good as bad, I think. But
like the Force.
My point was the bubble thing we were saying before. I don't know if you've ever experienced this, where you go somewhere and you forget your phone, and when you first forget it, the first thing you do is like try to remember like, did I fuck up and like leave it at a restaurant, or did I just leave it charging in my room?
Or am I drunk and it's still in my pocket?
It's the charging one. Yeah, or that.
That's always an option.
And there's a little bit of a weird anxiety emotion that comes with it when you realize like how often you reach for the phone, whether it's in a socially awkward moment where you like you don't want to talk to somebody necessarily, but you don't want to stand there awkwardly.
Well, it's weird. It even feels weirder now if I'm in a situation where it's like, oh, I should normally be on my phone doing whatever bullshit, and instead you just sit there. People kind of look at you like, why is this guy a psycho?
You're a little bit weird if you're just sitting there being.
Yeah, and it's like,
perfect
how's that not
example.
Okay?
Perfect example is being a bartender. People can't just sit at the bar and just have a beer and just think. They have to be on their phone.
Well, that's a thing.
I've been at the bar where there's 10 people at the bar, but none of them came together, so they all just sit there staring. But you used to go to bars and just like you could just talk as you know what I mean, just have a conversation with someone across the bar.
That's a weird thing to do now in a lot of circles, in a lot of people's lives. It's like if you just try to talk to somebody else,
it's more weird now than it was.
Yeah, absolutely.
But at the same time, like I won't really go to a bar just to get a drink by myself. Maybe occasionally I've done that.
I've done
some of us.
Like I'm out of town,
I've done it to like read and stuff, like get a drink and read.
But I when I do that now, it's often to get a bite to eat. But I often feel this like desire, like I'm gonna feel awkward if I don't go on my phone.
I agree, but I think it's worthwhile fighting that.
It's worth it to fight it. And sometimes when I'm on my phone, I realize like, hey, I'm in this public space with other monkey humans. See how often I say it?
It checks out, man.
And I let me just like get a read on them, like because no matter how much time you spend online learning things, and I totally get the addiction to like going online and learning things. I do it so much.
Yeah.
It's also really important to go out into your physical reality world and just rub antennae with the other monkeys, and just,
wow, that was a sentence.
We're mixing metaphors here.
No, I totally know what you mean. That was good stuff.
You just have to go like just make eye contact with people, talk to people, like.
But other people don't do that. That's the problem.
Yeah, so
they're locked
but I think
into
if
the
more
phone.
people started doing it, it could start a wave.
Well, I think it's something that you should do yourself. You should take that upon yourself to continue doing that.
I think.
I think it's refreshing.
I love being out. Like, one of the things I love most is, like, if I go to the city and, like, I don't know, like, there's an amazing bar in the city called Blacktail, and so you have these amazing cocktails. We're also going to have our friend who's an amazing like mixologist on and talk about cocktails.
Yeah, our mixology episode. That sounds good. I like that.
And so, like, it's so different from drinking beer when you have these cocktails because like there's so much different.
We should have him make a bunch of cocktails for that episode.
It might be like a guest cocktail night.
That would be fun. We should do that.
And we'll get extra silly. My point being, like, when I have just 3 drinks there, each one's about $16, right? Which is a pretty good price because these are some of the best cocktails you can get in the world. Like,
I mean, I would prefer them to be free.
It's so hard to become a bartender there, right?
Yeah.
And not only do they taste amazing, the level of professionalism from the bartenders, they're doing a crazy amount of work.
Yeah. There's probably a lot presentationally
They have over
too,
like
right?
200 different types of like mixes and syrups and things. They have different ice cubes and glasses for all and as they're making it, they're hanging with you, but in such a chill way, you know?
Yeah.
It's such like a cool, I don't know.
I couldn't do that.
Thanks for $16 for a drink type of way. Yeah.
So I'll go there and have 3 of those drinks, and now I'm walking around the city, and I have this sort of like buzz, and I don't even care about my phone in that state of mind.
Well, it's probably really good liquor,
All I care about is like looking around New York City and noticing. And I love walking around New York City, especially like there's just something about that city where you're just going to see everything in like 3 blocks.
Yeah, modern day Trantor, baby.
And so whenever I have that experience, I think to myself, I need to do this more. I need to like keep the rectangle in my pocket. And
I like
when
this
I'm in the world where it's like
the
super
rectangle.
interesting, you know, like pick your head up, like put your chin up actually, and look around at the world, and you can learn information in a way that's more natural to your brain than reading facts online and watching videos.
You got to be careful having the cell phone become like a third limb, like a third arm or something.
Be careful that your phone is not your good friend.
But I think that's why people freak out when they have like panic attacks when they can't find their phone because it's like, oh, I lost a hand.
My best friend
left. The point is it fucks up your dopamine like feedback. The way your brain gets like serotonin and happiness released, you're programming it in a very unhealthy way.
Yeah.
In like a weirdly dependent, unhealthy way that you don't have control over. Whereas like Luke's saying, going outside and like going for a walk or having a drink and a conversation, like these are things you can actively control. You can't control when people, when social media goes the way you want. And like I assume people lose it when they get, if their online community turns on them or they get pariahed by it. Like that's got to be such a mind fuck. And it's just, that's just not a good way to live because you don't have any control over it's controlling you. There's better addictions out there that you could train yourself to have, like getting a runner's high and shit, or like Luke said, just people watching.
Right.
But all right, so in this vein, let's do my would you rather.
Yeah, shoot, Mr. Genie. Do you need to transition into Genie
look at
mode?
that. The Genie's right on track.
Yeah, how does this work? How does it work? How do you go into Genie?
Oh, I did already. You didn't see it. It's very quick transition.
I thought you were going to Genie when you were rubbing Genie lube all over your Genie body.
Well, I'm full Genie now. I just had a Genie chub going. Now I'm full Genie. So.
So you become Genie.
Anyways, no, that was a grammatically correct sentence. Just for the.
I got a raging lamp right now. Let's just say that.
Also a grammatically correct sentence. So
now I'm
it checks out.
Like a mushroom penis, but like instead of like the cap of the mushroom, it's like a lamp. Like shade? Like...
Genie penis?
Oh my god. Anyways, all right, so you can would you rather every New Year's Eve you can look back at the year and decide to restart that year and try it again.
Oh, that might be useful,
man.
Or you can just be like, nah, I'm fine. I don't want to do 2017 again and just go into the next year. Or on New Year's Eve you could pick a day of the next year to randomly look ahead at and check out.
Oh, so it's a 3-part would you rather?
No, it's a two-part.
I have a very important question about
the first
that.
part is you get the choice of do you want to, you can restart or not.
Okay.
That's your power. Is you can just like you can just be like, all right, let's hang out, and it'll just go into 2018, or you can say, at midnight I want it to turn into the start of the year.
But
again.
if I rewind a year, I will go back to that exact moment at midnight on the previous New Year's Eve, and then I will know what just happened to me, and sort of like in that moment.
You'll be able to change it or
because I
whatever.
know exactly where I was at midnight on last New Year's Eve. I was with you, buddy.
So all right, that's good to know.
So that's a starting point. What if we both look at each other at the party we were at, and we're like, we just got genied, we know what to do.
Oh man.
And we go and stop Trump from becoming president.
I was gonna say it's too late for that.
Well, you can change the timeline each time you go through, but you're limited by you. Like, I doubt you're gonna get enough political power.
No, I understand that much, but I start living the same life, except it will slowly start to change because my knowledge of it might affect my decisions.
But will I be able to see, if I see ahead in that other option, will I be able to change what happens? Like, I can still influence the events to come that I see?
Yes, that's the point.
Yeah, you can try. I mean, if it's something major like North Korea nuking us,
right.
like you can't. What can you personally do? You can try to be an activist, but
no, but I could probably do something where it's like, all right, if I do enough, maybe that just changes the day that somebody gets up and is like, oh, let's push those buttons. Maybe not, obviously.
I'm thinking more in my personal life, though. Like, if I think back over the past year, I'm not saying like anything major happened where it's like, don't let the doctor do this simple surgery. But
you would also get to live another year. That would be kind of cool.
You're basically getting another year. But then here's the worry I would have. Would I have this sense of like right now when I'm living in reality, I'm just like with everyone. It's like we're all in the same problem called life, right? But if I went back in time, I would feel like I'm different. I'm like some weird alien participating in some fake reality.
Yeah, that sounds all right.
But then
so what? That's just a hang up.
A little bit and just think, well, this is exactly what I'm doing now anyways. Like, how do I know I'm not in that situation but without the memory?
How do I know anything?
There's a couple of things I want to point out for you guys. Is one, if something horrible happens, you have a chance to change it. So let's say you lose your legs in a alligator incident in July of next year. But if that happens next year, you could be like, shit, I don't have legs, but 6 months from now I can just go back and make sure I don't go to the beach that day. I'll just do this year over again.
Yeah.
So if something horrible happens to you, you just have to make it to the end of the year.
What if you choose like June to look at, and then you lose your legs in July?
Oh,
No, I'm talking about the first option.
Wait, I only get to look at 1 month?
No. You get to look at one day if you're going to look ahead. I'm talking about looking back.
How do I know what day to look at?
But looking back, you don't have to really look back because you already know what happened.
I meant going back. So it's useful in your personal life that way. You might feel like disconnected a little from other people, but you're not. It's all the same thing, and you just have more control over if something horrible happens to you in like your personal life. If there's a fire and your house burns down, an electrical fire, you'd be like shit, and you go live in a shithole for 6 months and then start over. And the first thing you do is get new electric or move. Like there's ways you can avoid these things, and you get another chance. Whereas if let's say you want to be president someday, you can make this the year you're going to start working towards it, and after a year like that didn't go so well, I'm going to try again, and you just keep doing that year until like, all right, that was a good year for building to become president.
Repeating it, Johnny?
Yeah, you could just keep repeating. You can live 2017 forever if you want.
You get obsessed with that year and make it like a video game?
Yeah, because I'd be like,
you might. I don't know.
Yeah.
That's why I'm asking you. I mean, life happens. Yeah. Yeah, I don't control everything. When you're dead, you're dead.
He controls everything, but he also doesn't control everything.
Let's keep in mind that the genie just sets up this game and then pieces out to some other dimension, and then he'll come back and check in on us.
Yeah, to be like, is it still fun?
He'll rub the timelines with his little genie finger and be like, yes, this is.
Or if you have to like if there's something I have to do, like I have to show up and you have to pick the day, like I'll show up and show you what the day is. But there's the curse on that of you could see shit that's going to happen and maybe not be able to affect it. Or you could just be real selfish and look ahead and see who wins the Super Bowl and just make money that way.
That's true. You look ahead and you see what happens, and then as you try to avoid doing what happens, you realize you're doing exactly what causes it to happen.
Yeah, that's like that's a time travel classic right there.
That's a classic, which is like there are certain like more grounded events that just have to happen, and the
it's not an Oedipal.
Might change, but they all seem to lead to this thing happening, right?
It's not an Oedipal timeline like that where you're fucked. You can change it.
This
and
is
stuff.
like infinitely branching timelines where
it depends on it depends on your timeline version, or your time travel version. Because
if anything, you viewing the day would fuck it up because you're aware of it now.
But
it depends on what you're viewing in that day. Like you can.
Well, what if I choose the wrong day and it's just like a day where I like have a cold and I'm at home like eating soup and like, watching TV and like I get nothing from that, If I'm in a homeless shelter, I'll know at least something.
I done fucked up. Yeah.
But if I'm just in the house I expect to be in, like in May.
Yeah, but see, this is you, so you could pick a day and be like, oh man, this is where it gets weird because of the time travel thing. I was gonna say you could pick a day and be like, all right, August 1st, I'm gonna Google like all the sports teams that won up to that point in the year. So when I view it at the beginning of the year, I can make money on it.
Wait, so I know in advance that I'm going to choose that option. So I'll make sure to do that on August 1st.
If you want, right? But then that creates a new timeline where you just go out and win your bets because you found out from you, but you don't have to actually do that now because you're in a different time. You know what I mean? So you choose what you're going to do in that day.
Okay,
so
Jeannie,
you don't have to just sit there on the couch.
I'm a human.
Hey,
I'll do
you're
it.
the one trying to game my fucking system, and you're making me go into complex time travel stuff to shut you down.
Time travel
here,
stuff gets so complex so
I
fast.
know. I'm very confused. To be honest, I'm very confused right now.
It really hasn't fallen apart yet. I swear.
I think this is a would you rather that I've never felt so stumped on.
Yeah, I agree. Because I don't feel strongly about either.
Tell me what you think about this, Joe. If you were to look forward on any one day, the day that would be most useful to look at would be the last day of the year. Because you'll know where you are, and it will tell you something, right?
And it will probably be a lot about reflecting.
And you get to see that whole day.
Yeah, so but it would be like where we talked about the year in review. You'd be like, oh, good, this is everything that happened because I happened
Whereas
to be...
if you see yourself, like, digging through, like, an abandoned grocery store because it's the apocalypse and you're just trying to find a can of soup, then you know
to buy
something
soup.
Happens, right?
Buy lots of soup.
I guess technically it's more closer to you get to... Yeah. You get to live out that day because you get to pick what you're viewing in that day.
Oh, you actually live out that day?
Because it's not. I know what I'm thinking. Because it's not actually happening. You know what I mean? You're viewing. It's.
But I know
you're not really.
God damn it!
I don't know, Morty.
You don't have to actually go do it because it's a different timeline that is the one you're visiting. You know what I mean? So it's not like you're stuck in a loop where you have to. Like go see your New Year's Eve because it's gonna be your New Year's Eve. Like you can.
You can take yourself.
You could see what it would have been if you didn't. Yeah, and so you could just check out like the news, or you could go check out whatever. Go check out.
Joe, do you think it would
whatever
be worse
of that
to
year.
know about the past in that kind of way or the future?
I don't know. I mean, this is the question.
Both can fuck up your psychology.
That's what I mean. I'm more worried about like what's gonna crack my brain more, right?
There's something grounding about
they're both gonna crack your brain.
Not being able to know about the past.
Well, either way, it's an option. You don't have to choose either one.
What I mean is, like in the present, when you know
which
about
is rare
the past,
for a genie,
which you do
situation.
because you have memories of the past, you also know that I can learn from the past, but I can't change it, right?
Right.
Whereas knowing about the future not only comes with the knowledge of that future knowledge, right? It also comes with the feeling of like I can change it, right? No, I understand in this scenario, Johnny, I can change the past, but I don't know if that would be a good thing. I think it would make me obsessed in like a way that like right now what I tend to come back to in my life when I can is like, all right, the past is just a thought arising in the present. My projections of the future is another thought arising in the present.
But that's not set either.
And I can just live in the present.
But what if you look into the future and you're like, oh, on that day in the future, like things are going to be great. I guess I'll just sit back and relax. And then you try to get to that point because you're just like, oh, yeah, that's what happens. And you don't do what you actually...
I'd rather not know is what I'm saying.
That's what I mean. Like, you don't do what you actually would have done to get to that point because you know that you get to that point. Like, do you actually still wind up getting there?
I don't want to fuck with that.
That's what I mean, yeah.
But this is a would you rather, so we have to choose.
You have to choose. I would choose and you don't have to. That's why I mean you don't have to use each ability. So if you want, you can just look at the next day every year, or you don't even have to look. You could just say Happy New Year's. I'm gonna just ignore my magical powers because whatever. But you can also just use it for purely personal gain
and not look.
You guys would look. You would. You would at least be like, well.
Definitely look.
Classic example is you can make a couple grand every year by just looking at the Super Bowl. That's just extra income, you know?
That's true.
That's true, and that's so easy.
That's real easy. And, you know, you're not really – all you're changing time-wise line is the profit margin of a bookie. You're not
But that's not set, though.
Like,
but I don't know how much even, like, the butterfly effect type shit where, like –
trust me, I'm a immortal genie. Time's more complicated. Wait, can you
add a burp in there? That'll convince me more.
I wish.
Wait, so
time. You're not that big of a player.
So you're basically assuring me that if I bet on if I look ahead and bet on the Super Bowl, that's what's gonna happen.
Yeah.
All right, I'll take that.
It's not a totally.
Yeah.
It's not.
I'll take that over obsessing about the past.
That's for sure. I'll take that.
You got to think about it, Joe. Psychohistorically, like one person being aware doesn't matter. It's about
I understand
stuff, you know.
But I mean, if I trip Eli Manning or something, well, he's never gonna win another Super Bowl. But somebody that could in fact affect it. But you're saying that's just not gonna happen.
Yeah,
I'm not gonna punch Tom Brady in the mouth anytime soon. That's gonna affect him winning the Super Bowl or not.
You're not realistically. I'm not imposing any timeline things. It's just you're not able to.
He's trying to loophole his way out of this.
It's just too big. You can't affect the Super Bowl.
Okay, I'll choose the ability to look ahead if I choose. I like that,
and especially because I don't have to look ahead. No one's holding my eyelids open watching it. So
I have no.
And I guess if you really were about to do something that would fuck up the timeline, I'd probably come and warn you. Because it's really hard for you to.
So if we're going to do something that would fuck up the space-time continuum,
and if he shows up, you done fucked up.
The genie might come and
warn
us.
Like Joe said, if you're gonna run down somebody like that in the game or something, or just tackle him and try to break his leg or something.
Time out.
I'm gonna pop up and be like, "You're fucking up the timeline," just so you know. And you'd be like, "Yeah, I want to fuck it up. I've lost my mind with my touch of godlike power."
This whole thing was premised on a deal with a genie. You're just living out this insane video game life, but
your
really
life's
it was
now
all
become a video
on
game.
Some crazy idea that
actually
you made a deal with a genie.
Well, yeah, and it actually takes up very little computing power for the genie to keep tabs on you. Just so you know. So
that's reassuring.
Not that big a deal,
in this
really.
Scenario, Johnny, you're busy with a bunch of other shit, and then
a bunch of other genie
shenanigans. Let me check on those humans that I made that.
Yeah,
deal
you ever leave a solitaire running in the background of your computer for a couple of days, and you come back to it?
You're right. It's just sort of on,
which takes up no memory. It's solitaire. It's so easy.
Yeah. Or you're playing Minesweeper and then you forget about it. And you come back and it counters at all 9s, and you're like, oh, all right.
Yeah, I would take the ability to look ahead.
I'll take the ability to look ahead. Yeah.
I like that one though. That's
a really good one.
Yeah.
Thanks. Yeah.
Well designed, genie friend.
Yeah.
Thank you, mortal monkey here.
Yeah.
Our goal is usually to finish what we want to say before 2 hours.
I'm satisfied, yeah.
So I'm pretty satisfied. We talked about this year. We talked about Trump, which is, I think, the main.
Well, he's just he touches upon so many issues, both by himself or just he causes them, or whatever. It all comes back to
whatever he touches is. It's worth it to sort of just remind everybody that, just because it's been normalized that Trump
doesn't mean
is the president,
normal.
It's important to one, not overreact to things, because politically, if we overreact and we make mountains out of molehills, then polarization will only increase and the future will be harder.
Did you say molehills?
Mountains out of molehills, small little hills, that's an expression.
I thought it was molehills.
Molehills?
Yeah, like moles.
What did you say, Lou?
Did I say molehills?
You keep saying it. Isn't it molehills?
It's a molehill.
It's okay.
What's a molehill?
It's when you're mowing the lawn and you crick up a little piece of dirt.
Oh my gosh! You really thought that's what it was?
Mountain. I think I must have thought that.
Oh, I don't know what it is. I just always thought it was.
No, it's when a mole digs a little hole
and for his hill.
it makes a little hill, and making a mountain out of it is being like, oh, geez, we got these mole hills. It's a big deal.
Than a mo.
Well, the other expression
and it's like
from
it's
my
just a
childhood
problem.
that
I don't know.
always fuck up is like when people say, like the expression as
I just saved you a thunkrection. I think.
know.
Yeah.
The expression as it's supposed to go is I couldn't care less.
That drives
but I
me
hear
fucking
people
insane.
all the time say, "Oh, I could care
I could care less. Good, fucking care less.
Go
then.
ahead and do it then. Show me how less you care.
Yeah.
You know?
Please do it.
Anyways, I was trying to say politically, don't make mountains out of mole hills.
Because then you have mo hills.
And
You got
I would say
mo hills, mo problems.
Don't
Yeah, that's what I'm talking
react.
about.
Don't react to things at all. In fact, try to respond to people. Figure out where they're at. And one of the things I heard when I was watching some interviews this week was leave room in a conversation with someone. You have to leave room, leave a door open where they can feel comfortable expressing part of who they are, but willing to change their mind. Like leave room for that kind of door opening, right?
Yeah.
Don't just like give this idea like you should expect a human being to completely do a 180 and change their mind in front of you in real time.
Because you're not going to either.
But your goal should still be to change someone's mind. Wait, Joe, let's just end it before you pee.
Okay.
Yeah, because like we're at the time where we should end it.
We definitely are, but
Yeah.
I really have to pee.
I
think we summed it up.
Yeah, we summed it up pretty well.
We'll see you for 2018. We're very excited.
2017, crazy year. Don't underestimate the craziness is my point. Like, there's a balance of, like, recognizing that it's insane that Donald Trump is president.
Star Wars nailed it. There's a balance to the Force.
There's a balance. I'm really thankful that we live in America where we can rip apart the president like this.
That's gold, yeah.
If you were in Turkey or Russia or a country like that, you might not necessarily do this.
Governments would rip apart you.
Let's just say you would think twice before talking about the president like this, right?
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
And so I'm really thankful for that. I'm hopeful for a lot of things in 2018. I'm nervous for a lot of things, but I think a lot of it depends on how the individuals, the tragedy of the commons, don't succumb to our worst selves, like zoom out a little bit, see this in the context of like monkeys evolving and becoming humans, and see it in the context of like the history of humans, and like, you know, we can do better. I think we can Are
you trying to say that we could make America great again?
I
think that's what he's been trying to say all episode, and he duped you if you've listened this long.
No. This is what I'm trying to say. Make the universe great again.
Fuck yes. I like that.
Johnny, are you still there?
Yeah.
Oh, nice. All right. Any parting words?
Any parting words for 2018, Johnny?
Yeah. Can I throw out another stupid quote?
Yeah. Actually, let him throw out the quote.
Well, I think you guys are just going to hang up on me, weren't
No, we're waiting for you to hang up on us.
We're trigger happy. We're ready.
Who's going to do it first?
But if you have a real quote, I'd love to hear it.
He does
really
not have a real quote. Fuck this genie.
I totally do.
No, I think he does.
I am hopeful for 2018. I want this podcast to grow, and I want to get guests. I want to be funnier and interesting. And try a lot of beers and teach people about beer. That's what I want out of this podcast. I want people to learn about crafty things too, like coffee and cocktails. And I got a woodworking guy that makes live edge tables, that are infected from bugs and
There's
stuff.
So many
it looks
interesting
so
people
cool
in the world, and like podcasts are like a way to sort of like get things that wouldn't appear on Oprah or CNN or whatever, NPR,
right.
and like there's a discoverability to just like there's an energy that I think humans can adopt that is like clearly a better way of being a human than a lot of the other ways. Like there's a way of being a human that's very tribal and all of the bad things, and then like you just said, Johnny, there's a way of like sort of recognizing craft, like appreciating like that like humans can become specialized in anything from like making furniture to brewing beer to brewing coffee and roasting coffee to wine to people that design and run governments. Like there's such a skill set.
I want to actually I find what's interesting is the actual breakdown of that rather than the mindset. Like there's a YouTube page I follow tips from a shipwright, and it's just this old shipwright, and he hand makes wooden boats and shit with like hundreds of years old techniques and tools, and it's like that guy must have a crazy brain organization to do that. But I want to actually talk to those people this year and be like, what's the hardest part of making a boat?
Yeah. Hey Johnny, by
that
the way,
kind of shit.
Joe just went to pee, and I'm
Yeah, there we go. All right, I'll wait for him for my quote then.
Yeah, wait for the quote.
But yeah, I want to get more into the nitty gritty of things in this.
So Johnny, one of the things I've loved about you getting into craft beer is that like already in what is it? It's been like just over a year that you've been really into beer and like home brewing and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So like in that year, like we actually connect more on more things because like the sort of like ways that music has shaped my personality, like being into a craft like that and getting a lot of like hours of experience in it has shaped like you're starting to like have that same wavelength, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I suppose. I think we should do more beer episodes too, because I was even talking to a vintner or a winemaker.
Yeah.
A guy who works at a winery yesterday, and like he knows his shit. He's very, very competent wine guy. But he was even saying that like he loves that there's so much more variety in beer. Like people that think they don't like beer, you can get anything from a little 2% like spritzy shandy type beer that just tastes like a lemonade. Like, does it taste like beer? All the way to like an 18% punch in the side of your head. That's like the heavier and more complex than a lot of wines you might find out there.
Right.
So I do think that craft beer is a little underappreciated because people just don't realize our like the human history of it, and there is a beer out there for you no matter what you think.
Yeah.
If you don't like it. So I would like to do more beer press for the masses because also we all like it and find it interesting.
Especially beer that isn't as like well known. Like I found a sense in the world where like if I talk about the fact that I'm into craft beer, with some people they almost like have a reaction that makes fun of it or something. It's sort of like, oh, like like, yeah, there's such a craft in like drinking beer.
Somebody asked me that the other day who listens to podcasts. They're like, oh, but is there really that much of a difference between beers? And I'm like, is there really a better way for you to inflect that question?
Well, so what I say to them is like, one, I totally get what you're saying.
I get it, but also
two,
here's the answer.
Let me just give this quick little anecdote. When I was in the middle of high school is when I started taking private lessons for my instrument, trumpet. And it was at that time that, like, I was all set to become... I was going to go into computer science of some kind. Like, I loved computer programming, and, like, my mind was heavily geared towards science and problem solving like that. But then, like, this music thing just, like, swept me up, and I got so into it. And one of the things I figured out really quickly was, let's say in high school, I'd be like, hey, like, this particular band or whatever sounds good. This, whatever I thought sounded good, my ear would evolve and change so fast that I would go back and hear things that I thought sounded good, and I would laugh at how bad they sounded, right? Whether it's my own personal tapes or the tapes of, like, my high school band or something, And I remember a particular summer, like, I went to a chamber music festival. It's like a 2-week thing where you play with a brass quintet and whatever. And I got back from that summer, and I finally learned, like, what in tune was, what it meant to play in tune. There was, like, one level to it, and then the deeper level of, like, really hearing it.
Yeah.
And I got back to band in high school that semester.
And you were like, whoa, not even close.
And at first I was like, wait, why did the band suddenly become like this shithole of a group?
Yeah.
And then I realized the band is the same band. It's my ear that changed, right? Yeah. And that's the beautiful thing about, like, whether it's music or craft anything.
Yeah,
is I used to taste craft beer, and I would be like, yeah, whatever. But the more you taste it and the more you learn about it, it's not like your taste bud changed. It's not like my ears physically changed. But the way my brain intakes the data and organizes it and notices
and as you get more data, that changes more. Yeah.
And it's all about data points, as they say, right? The more data points you have, the more you're able to organize this data. Yeah. And so, like, I think my passion about, like, the craft beer world, look, of course it heavily synced up with the fact that I love drinking beer and hanging out, right? But it also syncs up with, like, that music part of my brain that, like, likes to pick apart things and notice, like the components of it and how, like, a really good beer is balanced. It's like the edge, from the bitter edge with, like, the alcohol with this, with that, all balances.
What it comes down to is it's a sensory experience. Yeah. It's the same thing as looking at art or eating fine food, that not just for sustenance, but for flavor and composition or whatever. You know, that's why you eat fancy places. It's not because the steak is just because it's better quality. It's because it's prepared in such a way for you to appreciate it differently.
Right.
So it's because I got in an argument with someone. They're like, beer is an art. This exact argument, and he's like, art is art, and like music's art. I was like, well, that's visual art, audio art, like, you know, so why is it athletics is physical art, I guess? Like, why isn't beer count for like a tasting art?
I mean, art's
still
just
one of your
word.
senses.
And I think beer is just as deserving to be in that world of, like, art taste,
because it has that aesthetic value.
Just like with
all
music,
right, so
like
I want to do
versus
some
regular music. It's like, don't hate on pop music. Like, if music's working, it's working. There's something
unless
there.
It's shitty pop music.
Well, if
but
it's
there's
shitty, it's
shitty. There's shitty any music.
I ripped on, like, Bud Light and Natty Light, all that kind of shitty beer.
But there's also good cheap beer. That's fine.
But there's good cheap beer. Like,
yeah. Take everything for what it's really worth.
I think
Assess
Johnny
everything
had a quote
for what
for
it's
us,
really
right?
worth.
Yeah.
Oh, I was gonna say, did he hang up yet?
No, I think you have a real quote, right? We won't hang up on you.
Yeah. So just looking back on 2017, because this was a pretty divisive year, and I'm pretty nervous that it might be 1859 right now, and we got a lot of trouble coming. So I'm a big fan. I'm a big fan of Lincoln. So this is one of his first inaugural address, which like 6 states had already seceded by the time he made it. So he had some real divisive issues. But talking about the divisions in the country, said, "We are not enemies, but friends. We must not be enemies. Though passion may have strained, it must not break our bonds of affection. The mystic chords of memory will swell when again touched, as surely they will be, by the better angels of our nature." Abraham Lincoln.
The Better Angels of Our Nature is also a book by Steven Pinker, and it's sort of saying, look at the arc of humanity, and it is bending towards justice, as Martin Luther King said.
Trump said something very similar to that recently.
That's what I hate about great quotes, is like people can like abduct them and like use them for the opposite meaning of the intention originally.
Or just say somebody must be doing the raping.
I'm glad we didn't hang up on you, Johnny. Like we had our finger on the trigger.
Oh, my finger was on the trigger for a good 30-40 seconds at least.
But that's actually a really beautiful
I think that's a great way to end 2017. Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, I got to throw you guys off every now and then. You'll know all my moves.
That's
you
the
know?
Yeah, because like next time you say you have a really good quote, it's like you're just actually waiting to hang up on us. And...
Yeah, but it's like, that last one was good, so you'll bite.
So this is the sum up of 2017.
Yeah. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks for listening.
Yeah, it's been a hell of a year.
We've decided to start a podcast because, like, fuck it, it's fun. And
we'll be here all next year, too.
I've listened to the noise other monkeys are making in 2017, and I feel like we make just as good noise.
Well, they make a lot of oohs. Yeah, we make a lot of ahs and oohs, so I think it's a good balance, right? You don't want only ooh and only ah.
You gotta have some oohs, gotta have some ahs. I need more
going forward,
I need more oohing.
Oh my god. Okay, this is getting dangerous. Before
somebody hang up, please.
No.
Oh god.
Oh god.
You did it.
He hung up?
Yeah.
All right, Joe, it's up to us to end the podcast again.
I think we did.
But he did win this one, right?
He always wins in his own way.
No, we won that one time.
We did win that one time. Then that's what it's about, savoring the small victories. Yeah, what should we do next
I'll be in the middle of talking and pretend I have a story, and we'll hang up on him.
Or we should start like an argument, even better.
Well, whatever it is, it's just like we'll get into something and he's just listening, and then we hang up.
And like presumably absolutely outrageous, and then just boop.
Right.
Yeah.
Wow, we made it under 2 hours. Thanks for sticking around if you're still listening.
Yeah, wow. Bravo. I'm going to do a little applause
There are many
here.
angles one could take on 2017. We took ours.
We took ours, yeah.
And I
think
ours, I mean,
it encompasses
Joe's
a lot
place
of people.
around noon on a Thursday.
Yeah, this has got to end
today, and had 3 beers, had some coffee.
Yeah, we're good.
Yeah.
Anything
else? Like, share, subscribe.
I tried to burp, nothing came out. So instead, I'll just say, please like, share, subscribe, and enjoy.
Check us out on Patreon. You can throw us $1 per episode. It'll help us in a lot of ways, including hosting the podcast, getting new microphones.
Mostly beer.
Also the beer.
Yeah.
But that's our, whatever.
We were gonna get that anyways.
We're probably gonna get beer
the other
anyways.
stuff we'll only get if we can.
But the number one thing you can do to help us is share, right?
I would say share, but also just enjoy it and keep listening. And
mostly that.
If you like it, then share.
I like it.
Then share.
I should share it more.
I was gonna say, it's got to start with us, man.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. Well, we have the tweeter.
We'll catch you in the new year.
Yeah. Happy New Year.
We're gonna have some interesting guests. We don't know exactly what's happening with that, but stay tuned.
It's coming. Yeah,
Check out our
figure
Twitter.
it out. Yeah.
We'll keep you updated. And Happy New Year.
Yeah, we'll see you next year.
Peace.
Bye-bye.